Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm joined by Brad and Sarah from the Friends of the Force podcast for part 6 of our 20th anniversary celebration of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost conversations. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody, and welcome back to part 6 of our conversations surrounding, or celebrating, I should even more rather say, Revenge of the Sith. Star Wars Episode 3, the climactic film for the Star Wars saga at the time that it came out, and still a very important story in the Star Wars universe. And we have new guests on the show here today, and I'm thrilled to bring them along on this conversation. And we have such a wonderful chat there. I can't wait for you to hear it. And it's effectively, I think it does a great job in closing up our discussion, or the series, if you will, of discussions that I hope you've been enjoying along the way. I certainly have been having a lot of fun with it, and I hope that you all have been enjoying it as well along the way too. And of course, you can go check out the other ones if you haven't if you aren't caught up with this series either. A lot of great stuff, and we've had some wonderful guests join the show to chat their memories about the film and to talk about its legacy and how they've reflected on it over the last couple of years, and particularly in this day and age, how it maybe means more so than ever, frankly. And we get into a lot of politics in this discussion too here today, and real world examples. And I think it just is really privy to the understanding of this film, and how art can impact the larger society that we have set in front of us. Before we get into that discussion with Brad and Sarah, let's get into some of the news that's taken place over the Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent galaxy this past week. And of course, the big thing is the release of Trials of the Jedi, which is the concluding adult novel of the High Republic saga. And I can't wait to get my hands on that one and to dive into it, as I've been a big fan of the High Republic. And we may need to do an episode here in the near future about the saga itself and just reflecting on it over the last couple of years here. So go check it out if you're into the High Republic, or maybe don't start with the last one if you're just getting into it yourself. But um, you know, uh, find your entryway into the High Republic, and I hope that you find your way to the conclusion of it, because it's really wonderful, and I think that you will get a lot of enjoyment if you're a fan of Star Wars out of the saga itself. Yeah, got nothing but positive things to say about Charles Soule. Started it and he ends it, and I think you'll be excited with the product as well. There's also been 2 new Star Wars comics that have been announced over the last week or so here, and the first one is a new 4-issue miniseries titled Star Wars Boba Fett Black, White, and Red, and it follows in the footsteps of some of the other Black, White, and Red anthologies that have come out before, such as Vader and Maul. And this standalone story will now feature a Boba Fett here, which is pretty cool. Um, and it looks like it's going to go to Tatooine and Coruscant, and talk about his era of bounty hunting that he's been doing here. And you can check out the kind of cover for part 1 that is for this not for the podcast, but for the comic series available on StarWars.com right now. It's been written by Benjamin Percy, art by Chris Allen. The cover was done by Alex Maleev, with a couple variants that you can check out as well. And it is available now for pre-order at your local comic shops. I believe September 17th is when exactly it will come out to comic shops if you want to check it out for yourself then. The other new comic that was announced this week is going to reunite Han and Lando and Chewie for a story set after Return of the Jedi and in between The Force Awakens. It's going to be called Star Wars Han Solo Hunt for the Falcon. Looks like this is going to be a 5-issue limited series. And Leia is going to be involved in it too, and it's going to somehow talk about how Han retired and then returned to a life of adventure in order to reclaim the Millennium Falcon from the one of the criminals who stole it from him. Some artwork is available online that you can check out, and it looks like it's going to go for sale starting September 3rd. So September is going to be an interesting time for some new Star Wars comics that are coming out in this after the summer. After the summer, of course, and I can't wait to kind of dive into some of these stories here and to learn some more about where these characters are at post Return of the Jedi, and even for Boba Fett himself too, where he's at in the galaxy at this point during his time as a bounty hunter, and just to get some more time with these characters, I think is always a fun thing overall. With that, folks, that is all the news that I had for this week. Make sure that you're staying up to date with Force Ghost Conversations on all the social media platforms. Again, we're available on X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, um, Facebook, and I think that's all of them. Just basically go to any of those sites, search for Force Ghost Conversations. I'm sure we're there in some capacity because we'd love to continue the conversation with you. I don't think the Revenge of the Sith celebration has to stop just because we are choosing not to actively have episodes about it for the near future here. But we can certainly keep those conversations going, and I because it's one of my favorite Star Wars films ever, I would love to have that conversation continue with you all. So be sure to engage with us on those platforms, and that's frankly it that I have for all the news and the homework and all that stuff. Let's get into our main topic discussion with Brad and Sarah. And on the other side of the short break, we'll be back with that main topic discussion. Stay tuned. Welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations, everyone. We are here still for another celebration episode of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And can you believe it? We're at our sixth and final one here. I wanted to do six because at the time it was the sixth movie in the Star Wars saga. And I think this film, for the time that it came out and where it fits in my life, deserves 6 conversations about it. And we've had so many wonderful guests along the way here. And of course, we have some brand new guests to Force Those Conversations to close us out here. We have the hosts from the Force, Friends of the Force podcast. We got Brad and Sarah. And let's start with you, Brad. Welcome to Force Those Conversations. And how are you doing?
Hey, good to be here. Happy to be on the 6th episode, Revenge of the 6th, which I'm a Revenge of the 6th truther, not a Revenge of the 5th truther anymore. I think the 6th is way cooler. So I'm happy to be on this episode specifically.
What was the thought process there? You're like, the 6th is where it is and not the 5th.
I think you just take out the X, right? And you get Sith. Okay. But like 5th, there's not an, you got to throw an S in there, and you got, it's more natural.
You've defended this well here. I too am now a truther for Revenge of the 6th. May 6th, everybody. Watch out next year. It's coming. Sarah,
5th is a little too unnatural.
That's right. Oh my gosh, you're exactly right here.
Oh my gosh.
Sarah, welcome to the podcast, and how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us and inviting us on. I'm happy to be here to talk about ROTS, which is, of course, a favorite. However, I got to be the lone minority voice here and say that I am a Revenge of the 5th fan. Really? I appreciate the same ending sound as opposed to having to mess around with the X, like the 6th. That's no, not for me. Revenge of the 5th. Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is going to be interesting, folks. I'm going to let the two of them sway me throughout the course of this episode here, and then I'll make my final decision on where my allegiances lie at the end of all things here. So it's truly a blast to have you both on the show. I'm a big fan of your podcast and the work that you do on Friends of the Force. It's a wonderful podcast. And thank you for joining this and concluding out our Revenge of the Sith conversations here. Of course, the conversations never end. We always are here to chat about the fun that is Star Wars, and particularly this film. But I want to go back to 2005 here. I want to go back to when this film is coming out. It's been 20 years now at this point. I hope all of us have seen it in the theaters for the re-release here, which was awesome. But I want to go back to like our first time, or even the hype for this here. Brad, I believe that you said you have seen this in the theaters, so I want to get your perspective first on this one. Take us back to 2005, May, and the lead up to it. What was your anticipation like and build up for this movie?
Man, 2005. Oh man, I feel old. I vividly remember the day I saw ROTS in theaters. I remember what theater it was. I remember just like everything about that day. I remember seeing the opening crawl, the Battle of the Heroes. Not that Battle of the Heroes, but the opening Battle of the Heroes and the drums of the cruiser. And I saw it again. I think I saw it like 2 or 3 more times in theaters. It was a big movie for me in the day.
Love it.
one thing I'll never forget though is my brother, who I was like, you know, looked up to him a lot growing up, and he really helped form a lot of my interests. Uh, I thought he was seeing Rots with me for the first time, and he turns out he lied, and he had actually seen it. So I waited for him to come home like the week after, maybe that like weekend or whatever, and he already seen like the midnight premiere. So I was very upset about that. Still am, but
Trust was broken. How could it ever be reforged after that?
I know. Two brothers just taking on the galaxy, and appropriate for Revenge of the Sith. Two brothers turning against each other.
Yeah.
So,
you
lore
were like
accurate.
only Sith deals and absolutes. Yeah.
Lore
Yeah. Lore accurate viewing experience of Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, 20 years later, I'm glad that people have come around to it in a lot of different ways, and some people continue to love it just as much as they used to. So, it has its flaws, but I kind of try to look past those for the candidly the nostalgia of it, and just a different time in Star Wars. So.
Hey, what film doesn't have its flaws? And this one in particular was a great end to a fantastic saga that is the prequel trilogy. And frankly, Star Wars that we knew it at that point, too. Like, I don't know if any of us really knew what was on the horizon. How could we predict what we've gotten in the last 20 years since, and particularly the last 10 years here? It's incredible. And Sarah, I know that you have a different origin story with this film. So tell us about your kind of entryway into this and your anticipation leading up to watching it for the first time.
Right. Okay. So there's a point in time before Star Wars, right, in your life, and then
sure.
After Star Wars 77, it's all just there for me. I don't necessarily have the experience of seeing this film for the first time or anticipating this film for the first time. So I was a little young for my parents to go take me to a PG-13 movie in 2005. I know my parents, they were not going to do that. But
they didn't know that kids were being killed in this movie. Like they were ahead of the curve with that one.
No, they were really on the ball. They were pretty solid. They were like, let's make sure they're okay. But my dad and I, or my brother and I, were first introduced to Star Wars by my dad, who sat us down and had us watch the original film. And I so distinctly remember saying, like, if Darth Vader is too scary, we can turn it off. And my brother, who's a couple years younger than me, was like, turn it off. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And after that point, all the Star Wars movies are in my life. So I don't know when this was, or when this all happened in my life, but both Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith were my go-to car ride movies. So we had them.
Wonderful.
We had them on DVD, widescreen and full screen, and
as you should.
And that was my life growing up. Was like Lego Star Wars, the prequels on road trips, and all of my brother's Star Wars Legos that I enjoyed with him.
Man, I miss those days of the road trip DVD haul set that you're like, what are we going to take to, we got the portable DVD player, or maybe you had the headset in the back of the car seat, in the back seat and all that. Like, what a different time.
And you're like,
these days don't know how good we maybe had it back then. I don't know.
You know what? I'm actually going to say that yes, because I was lamenting with a friend that there are no more CD players in cars. And I think
that is a travesty.
I think they still put the DVD players in some of like the minivans and stuff, but like the DVD player was great. And then you have the middle console where you could put like 6 DVDs when you went on a trip. And so me and my brother, we duked it out every time. But like Attack of the Clones and Rots were always there.
I love it. And
as George intended, on a tiny little car screen. Yeah.
I was about to say, like, this is exactly what he thought of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a VHS player, and I remember taking the Phantom Menace VHS with me. But Revenge of the Sith was the last VHS Star Wars movie. Although I got that one on DVD widescreen. I didn't get it on the...
So I'm looking at it right over here. Got it on my wall set here. I can't get rid of my DVDs. They're so sentimental to me.
Is it widescreen or full screen?
It is the widescreen. We did not have a full screen TV at that time. We had upgraded.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I'm looking at the 2004 re-release of the original trilogy too, like a thing that's near and dear to my heart. Right beside it too are the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series on DVD and of course the prequel trilogy sandwiched in between it.
It is wild how far we've come, by the way, in technology. Like back then it's like today it's like, what if we superimposed Mark Hamill's face on a human being and he was a main character in a TV show? And then back then it was like, what if you took your movie and you made it wider? Like, crazy.
Or
20 years.
horizontal, more vertically.
Yeah, 20 years, folks. A lot can happen. So, yeah.
We all remember the HD, DVD, Blu-ray wars of 2007, 2008.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was on the right side of history. I never bought a single one of the red. What was it? The red color.
It was the red casing. Yeah,
I never bought one of those. I was a Blu-ray stand from day one.
A Blu-ray stand from the age like 11. Congratulations.
That's right.
Really? Yeah.
You were really with it. That's amazing.
I was in on the ground floor. I still have some Blu-rays.
A Blu-ray truther.
Late 2000s. I still have a couple of them.
Love it. I'm a big physical media guy myself, so 4Ks is where it's at, and we've come a long way. Like you were saying, try telling 2005 Brad or Sarah that like Grand Moff Tarkin's going to be back somehow and like not alive, but somehow digitally imposed on someone. Not even the Mark Hamill of all, who's kind of like there and does some facial stuff with it too, but Tarkin.
yeah. That was even 10 years before. Yeah, I mean, wild time.
So I will echo everyone's sentiments here. I was very much highly anticipatory of this movie. I did see it in the theaters when it came out in May. I was 10, so I was the ripe age for that Lucasian like sweet spot that he was shooting for when it comes to like, this is a movie for 12-year-olds. Well, maybe for the 10-year-olds that also works too. The big lunch table conversation was, how are they going to close this up? Even in elementary school, we were ready and rocking and rolling to see how this thing closed up. Like I said, I think I'd watched all the movies. Summer of 2003, I saw Attack of the Clones maybe 300 times. And that's not a hyperbole. That might even be understatement.
Like an everyday sort of a thing?
Yeah. So, I don't. Since we're talking old times, like how things went back then, you may recall if you had like DirecTV instead of like, they had just like channels for a movie, and it would just play over and over again. Like, and somehow my uncle, who I was at his house every day that summer, because my mom was working a side job at a store nearby, so I got dropped off there every day, and we would just watch that channel all day long. So, once it ended, Attack of the Clones started right over again. And then we're like, well, we might as well watch it again. Padme's ship is getting blown up here, and now we're stuck in the detective story of it all. And then the Jedi Arena comes, and like, well, we got to rewatch this again. So, again, that's how 300 times comes. And I thought that the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy were different Star Wars at that time. It really took me until 2004 with that DVD re-release that I was like, oh, this is one fluid story, because I saw Hayden at the end of Return of the Jedi. I'm like, whoa, no way. This is that guy is the bad guy, the guy that I really like in Attack of the Clones. That's not possible. I had a coming to Jesus moment here. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing, George? That was old Star Wars and this is new Star Wars, and they just didn't connect at all. But now they're one cohesive story. How does this be? And so I had to know how this was going to come together. So that's where my anticipation was through the roof. I couldn't wait for this to come out. I was waiting for every trailer that could possibly come out. I remember the day that like the kind of Who's Your Daddy poster appeared in our local movie theater. Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, movie E-Town, rest in peace. It was there at one point, I remember, and I was like, there it is, guys, you will not believe this. I think I saw all the movies where the trailers appeared beforehand. I can't remember exactly what they were, but I was definitely on the hunt for them. But very excited for this, and I have a little bit more lore that our listeners definitely know at this point, because I've told it 5 times, but we have a little bit more lore about this later here, so stay tuned for that. But the internet was still in its infancy at this time, folks. At least at the time it was released, 2005. Again, different time, folks. You got to put ourselves in our seats 20 years ago for here. How did you first hear about the title Revenge of the Sith? And what did you think of that title then? And perhaps how have your feelings changed about it since then? So Sarah, let's start with you, since again, the journey is a little bit different here on this one. When did you even recognize that there was a Revenge of the Sith versus just one long story? And what did you think of that title then?
Ooh, I think my thoughts on the titles have always been like, they're so cool. They're all just so cool.
Love it.
I don't know if I was thinking critically about it as a kid. I was playing, the the very best Lego Star Wars, The Complete Saga,
Love it.
where you're in the cantina and then you go into the different rooms to get to the different movies. Okay, it's the best. Sorry to all the other Lego Star
Many a
Wars.
day at Blockbuster renting that one, I can tell you that.
Absolutely, absolutely. We had bought like the cheat guide. My dad got controllers for our PC for us. It was very
the
serious.
cheat code book was actually a thing, folks. Remember that? We didn't have to go online and search things up. It just, you had to buy an actual book for like $20 to get all the cheat codes.
Like I feel like I remember the book was like really well designed and like really cool. So it was like a fun book.
Yeah, they made them awesome.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, it wasn't just my brain saying that. But like I don't think I've ever really thought too much about the title other than that it's like cool and edgy until I dove back into fandom as an adult.
Okay.
And I really started to like take note of these titles' meanings within the story. Because there isn't really an Attack of the Clones and Attack of the Clones, you know?
Got it. Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean like I'm not entirely answering your question. I apologize, but
that's totally
I remember
fine.
when The Rise of Skywalker was announced, I was like, oh my gosh, it's another action word that begins with an R. This is completing the energy of the final movie and the trilogy. And so like I've always been a fan of the title. I've always liked it. And I think all the Star Wars titles have a particular meatiness to them that is just really fun to discuss. And it also has a lot more creativity. And I think some of the titles we get for many shows and movies these days. I love Andor with every fiber of my being, but Andor is not entirely an inspired title. So
yeah. Well, once they add that a Star Wars story on the other side, then we're really cooking.
It's some energy. Solo, a Star Wars story.
If Rotz came out today, it would just be called Anakin.
A Star Wars story.
Anakin, a Star Wars story. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
That's genuinely a little bit cursed because you're 100%
honestly,
right.
You were right. It would be like Star Wars Anakin, a Star Wars story, or just Star Wars Anakin or something like that. It would just, wow, it'd be very uninspired. You're right.
Yeah, and that's like, I mean, that's just the current trend. So like, I can't like really dig it, but really go in on it. But like, also I can just a little bit.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the titles for the prequels in particular are just like so delicious. So good.
They are. No, that's actually right. There's a lot to chew on here when it comes to these titles here. I mean, the Phantom Menace alone. Who was the Phantom Menace? What was the Phantom Menace?
Oh my god. Gosh, genius, brilliant. Nothing better than the Phantom Menace. Like, the intrigue.
It's great. It's great.
It's so good.
It was many a conversation as to who was the Phantom Menace. Is this guy? Who could it be? Who was? I will say, because again, I didn't think that these were connected at all. For a while there was a big topic of discussion at our lunch table was who was the hooded guy? Like, who was this Darth Sidious? We didn't know that he was Emperor Palpatine. We didn't make that connection until later on. So we were just like out in this like cliffhanger world that existed where we're like, hey, it could be anybody. It could be anybody out here. It could be Kenobi. It could be Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon maybe lives. But it wasn't, alas.
Alas. A different story indeed.
A different story indeed. That's right. Brad, what did you think about the title Revenge of the Sith when you first heard about it? And now that your feelings potentially changed over time?
Yeah, I don't remember if I have any specific feelings about the title itself, but like you brought up the internet of that day, and I feel like I told Sarah this at one point and she was like, what? But like I was deep in the internet and Revenge of the Sith came out.
Yes,
like, I was
love
like
it.
I was on like Hyperspace Club watching like the web docs. I wasn't like on Reddit boards or anything, but like I remember going home the day that the Rots trailer came out and like going on AOL.com and downloading the trailer in QuickTime and then watching it.
You had to update your shockwave to make sure that it downloaded. It took 3 hours to download.
Oh my god!
See, this is crazy to me because Brad and I are only, and I think you as well, and like we're only a couple years apart. But like this feels like a completely different world.
Yeah, I remember the exact computer I was sitting at when I watched that first trailer. I remember.
Love it. Did you have to ask your parents permission too before hopping on to download it?
Nah, not really. No,
Okay.
they probably let me have too much unrestrained access to the internet.
He's got an older brother. I was I was the oldest child, so like I was the sort of one that was asking permission.
Yeah, like basically my 2005 was like going home, instant messaging my friends on AIM, looking up things about
What a
Revenge of the
time.
Sith, and then going on Gmail to Gchat my brother who was working all the time and talking to him about Revenge of the Sith coming out. That was basically 2005. But also,
Amazing.
not only that, but like it was such a unique time because we didn't know. I'd say like we didn't know a lot about the movie, but like the closer we got to it, the more we did know, because like Lego Star Wars the video game that came out in
Before?
March, like March, late March of that year. So like I was playing that, and you basically had the entire ROTS story, and
Yep,
then the
it spoiled
ROTS
everything.
video game came out
Also
May
came out
5th,
like 3 weeks before. Yeah.
3 weeks before the movie, and like I couldn't resist. Like I kind of knew most of what happened in the movie before the movie came
That's
out.
crazy.
And the
Yeah.
game showed actual clips from the movie as you were beating the story.
Yeah,
Like, there was no two ways about it. They told you everything that happened.
right. And then the Revenge of the Sith novelization, I think, also came out before the movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I think the
So-
soundtrack might have too. I mean, like nothing was off
Yeah.
limits here.
Yeah, I was
Well,
I was listening to the soundtrack. Yeah,
Wow.
ROTS. Oh, actually, no, sorry. ROTS came out October of that year, so that wasn't out
Oh,
yet.
okay. Well,
But the soundtrack, you're right, did come out. Lots of figures came out with tons of packaging.
oh my gosh.
So, like,
Everything
the
was so good in
movie-
that line.
But the fact that we were living in an age where you could go on Hyperspace Club and watch videos from the set, like Pablo Hidalgo was in some of those, I think. Like
Yeah,
George
yeah.
was in those. Like the cast was in those. Like they were not necessarily quiet about a lot of things with this movie, and I think
Mhm.
that was like just such a special time pre-Disney, where like now everything at Disney is like under lock and key, under NDA heavily. But back
Yes.
then, George was just like, "Oh, it's my movie. I'm financing it." So it's like,
That's right. That's right.
I own the
Anything is-
company. I can do what I
Nothing
want.
is off limits here.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Weird time. But I think all of that to say, like, the hype build up for Revenge of the Sith, you felt like it was something different.
Yes.
Versus Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. And I was also like kind of getting into the internet for Attack of the Clones, but like ROTS really felt like
Yeah, it was your sweet spot.
just everybody was there talking about it leading up to the movie.
Sarah, it
I'm
looks
so
like you have some thoughts on your
I
mind
kn-
here. What do
well,
you...
I'm just absolutely shocked. Absolutely. I think in 2005, I was mostly just like, oh, I was going to third grade and I loved my teacher, but like I was not super friendly to all the boys in that class, every single one of them. And I played soccer. I'm trying to think, and I was into like 2000. No, must have done some musical theater funsies. But but the point is,
works.
I was looking up when YouTube launched, because YouTube launched in 2005, and I was like, oh well, YouTube launched in 2005. No, it launched December 15th, or was founded in February 14th, but it might have launched in December. And now I'm just kind of coming to terms with the fact that like, oh yeah, I guess you had to go download the trailer in quick time, and
AOL,
from StarWars.com alone. Like
that's crazy because like
comingsoon.net was my hub.
But like you
That's where I
couldn't even
I lived there.
you couldn't even go to YouTube and watch it in 480p top resolution quality.
No,
right.
it was bad.
yeah. It
And then the
buffered for
second
like 3
trailer-
hours.
Yeah, in the second trailer, it was during a March Madness game. I think it was like Duke versus
Oh.
Villanova or something. Like
Oh, wow.
it was like a Final Four game or like a Sweet 16 or something. And that's when they debuted the second trailer where Palpatine has, some consider to be unnatural. Like that
man.
epic
One of my
trailer.
favorite
Like
trailers
that's
of
the
all time.
official. Yeah, that's like the official trailer. So that was exciting too. But it's like, again, you're not just going on YouTube to watch it. It's like if you're not watching college basketball that night, you might
missed
not
it.
see the movie
You
trailer.
didn't
or
DVR
you-
it, knowing ahead
Yeah.
of time that it was going to be there, just so you could
Yeah.
skip to it. If you're not a sports fan, like you
Yeah.
were out of it.
Yeah, and it might be on the internet like a day or two later, but you gotta download it.
Or you got to find what movie it's playing
quality.
before, and then
Mhm.
Yeah.
pay the ticket to go see it, and hope that you like the movie. I mean, I remember walking out of a movie from the Phantom Menace trailer just because.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see the Phantom Menace trailer. Forget Meet Joe Black. I didn't need to see the rest of it.
Yeah. So, man, I kind of missed that. I missed that.
It was a different time, and there's some nostalgia for this. I do appreciate the effort that we had to go to earn the trailer in a way.
Yeah.
it's
Oh, it's so interesting.
It's so interesting, and it's also like there's been so many shifts in the internet culture since
Yes.
then, like a lot of
Yes.
shifts. Like we're talking like right now, pre-iPhone, pre-first iPhone,
Pre-iPhone. Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And then once you get past the iPhone, you get into no, I'm sorry, this is not Star Wars. Once you get past the iPhone, then you get into like the YouTube heyday of like
Mhm.
2009 to like 2011 or 12, and like everybody was watching the vloggers or whatever, and there was like certain YouTube culture that really sticks out from
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
And then we get into like the real fast smartphone era of the mid 2010s, and now we're like in a complete it's so fascinating to know, like understand, and having lived through all these shifts in our popular culture, as well as like our fandom culture and how we experience that online
Mhm.
over the past 20 years.
I'm very happy I'm not a Star Wars like a kid right now growing up with
Yeah.
YouTube, because like back then it was like, oh, like hyperspace.com, like web docs. Now it's like, here's a 6-hour video essay about why Kathleen Kennedy's getting fired. And it's like, oh my God, I can't imagine being a kid right now liking Star Wars and you're just trying to sift
Yeah.
through the garbage out
Mm.
there. Whew,
Mhm.
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying, we had it so good back then.
we had it
Oh,
so good,
I
but
mean,
it
the
was still
internet was
bad
still
enough if you like the
it's still
prequels.
bad. Yeah. Like
Right.
I'm on a website right now, like old Reddit, kevinswatch.com, and like even there's comments on here that's like, yawn, Revenge of the Sith, boring. Like, so like not to say there was
Oh man.
none of that back then, but like the sheer amount of misinformation about Star Wars nowadays is like so high.
Yeah, it's through the roof.
Yeah, and
And the
back then it was
algorithms
more or
push it.
less
Yeah.
yeah, and back then it was more like we disagree on like the title and like these things, and like I don't really like the prequels, and now it's
Mhm.
like I hate blah 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 blah. It's like it's just so different in a
Yeah,
lot
and
of
like
ways.
if
But
you start a new account, like I say for TikTok, for example, right, and then people are like, you not even liked anything yet. The algorithm is like, you're a male, you signed up. Oh, you're 30. Right? Here's what we're throwing at you. Like, oh, all this right wing stuff and ladies,
yeah,
and like, okay, well, I didn't ask for any of this. Let's find a Star War, and it's just what they feed you here, and it's like,
it's
could you
like
imagine just searching Star Wars and just seeing like, God forbid, you're probably the first video you're probably going to see is like some red beamed eyeball video of Kathleen Kennedy or something like that. I'm like,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
oh
bro, I
man,
just
it's
want to
tough.
download my 480p trailer. Let me live.
That's right. I
Let
just
me
want to
live.
see the fun teaser trailer where Lord Vader, can you hear me? Yes, Master. Rise, and then it's just him rising with like some shots, and it was a great teaser. Give me that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Give me the fun
Mhm.
times.
yeah,
The fun times, folks.
yeah. I'm telling you, just go into Wayback Machine at any point, the
Oh,
Internet Archive, a wonderful place, and you just type in April 2005, and you can go see StarWars.com at that
you know
Amazing.
time, and
what?
it's a
That's what I'm
wonderful thing. It's a
that's what I'm doing
wonderful
after
thing.
we end
That's a great
this.
deep dive. Yeah, good. Thanks for
Yeah.
for noting that.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to do
yeah,
that too.
yeah.
Well, I think it's
Wayback
time.
Machine. Yep.
I think it's time for me to blow your minds here as well with like my little bit of lore here. And again, talking about the internet in its infancy,
Let's
and
go.
all that. So I found out about the title through the 2004 DVD re-release. So that's where I found that out at. And after I had watched, there's some like behind the scenes stuff about the making of the movie. I believe in the bonus features there, everything maybe like a teaser trailer and definitely like a Battlefront 2 demo or something like that,
Is that
which
the
is great.
silver box set of the
Oh,
of the
yes, it is. It
originals?
sure
Is
is.
that okay?
Yep.
I have that. I have that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I
Absolutely.
love that one.
So me being the inquisitive 9-year-old at that time, I went over to the computer. Again, I had no internet restrictions at that time too. And at my uncle's place, the TV was right beside the computer. So I was always in eyeshot if I was doing something. And I went over to the computer and decided, hey, I'm curious what is out there about this movie at this time. So I think I just searched Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, and did some sleuthing and all that. And then there was a bold part of me that was like, I'm gonna just Google Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith script.
Oh no.
And about 10 pages into that Google search, I found a full script of this movie available online and readily available to the world. And I digested it. I quickly skimmed that, knowing that maybe the FBI watchdogs are all over this. I think the statute of limitations has passed. Maybe many NDAs have fallen off the wayside at this point. So hopefully I'm all safe. It's the 6th time I'm telling this story here, folks. So,
but I'm hearing it for the first time. I'm so sorry.
But exactly.
I'm really enjoying it.
No, I'm saying like if the FBI wanted to find me, they would hunt me down by this point.
Right.
But very much a version of the script that was accurate to what appeared on screen. Now I know that George was very much known for rewrites on the set and all that, but pretty much everything plot-wise that transpired, even down to lines of dialogue, transpired exactly as they did in that script. So in 2004, I knew everything was going to happen. Now the caveat here is I was like, okay, I need to see the movie to make sure I wasn't, just reading someone's hand scribble here, but like them being very detailed about like Mustafar and the lines that Anakin and Obi-Wan would say to each other, and Padme being very particular about dressing in a way that she didn't show off her pregnancy. I was like, okay, this maybe has some merit here, so we'll give this some of its due. So I knew a whole year out in advance what. Could you imagine a full script leaking online these days? It's just unfathomable. If like one set photo is up, someone is throwing this down.
Yeah, okay, I mean, like it would be wild in the year 2019, for example.
Who's losing their job just because they let some person take a photo on set?
Yeah, like imagine if they put the entire Revenge of the Sith plot into a Burger King commercial and released it. Which, fun fact, listener, that did happen with the Rise of Skywalker, but it still happens. Happens.
No,
you want to go, Sarah?
The really funny thing about that is at that time I was a leaks reader. I was a leaks reader. I was like, I don't care about spoilers. Give it to me. And I'm not that way anymore. I mean, I don't care about spoilers, but I'm not a leaks reader anymore. But I was back in the day, and so I would mosey on down to / Star Wars leaks and read the latest. And I was reading the Rise of Skywalker leaks. They're like, oh, here's what's latest, information on the plot. And I went, well, that's not great. That's not real. There's no way that that's happening in this movie. I mean, like a movie I've speculated so much about that has like 1,000 endings in my mind. There's so many things. I was in college at the time, a friend and I, we literally sat from like 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the library of our college. We did not get up a single time to eat, to go to the restroom, nothing. And we just speculated. We just speculated about this movie for like 7 or 8 hours. It was kind of crazy. And we were like, whoa, it's the middle of the night. What have we done? And then I was like reading these leaks and I was like, this is the least, in my opinion, my take, like the least creative option possible in every which way. And I was like, there's no way any of these are real. And then they did that German Burger King commercial that had all of these leaks. And they were like, well, that's not real. And then I was going to, we were planning an episode. And I was like, Brad, we're going to do this episode where I've, read all these leaks. You haven't read any of them. And I'm going to write fake ones.
And you're going to pick which ones are real or not. Yeah.
And like, you're going to tell me which one like was something that was leaked on Star Wars Leaks. I couldn't do it. They were all real. Every single one of them. Every single thing on Star Wars Leaks was true. And I was like,
but not just the women leaks, but the children leaks too.
but
sorry, you said all of them. I was like, I had
just
to go there.
like you, Anthony, I was like, I have to go confirm this for myself. Like it could not be true.
Inquisitive minds think alike. Yeah.
Right. Here I am Thursday night in the movie theater by myself, sitting next to some folks I didn't know, and they're talking about Star Wars, and I was like, and here I am as the movie is playing, going,
you were like, the dead speak. There it is. Oh,
the dead speak. And they were like, Rose Tico's not in this movie, and I was like, this is devastating to me personally. Or they're like, Ben Solo falls in the pit. I think that was an iconic one. Ben Solo falls in the pit. We're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then he fell into the pit. I was like, oh my god,
it's literal and metaphorical.
But like, I am not really, I'm not a fan of that movie, but yeah, I love the fact that you just like the knowing so far ahead of time and going, do I really know? Do I really know right now? Yeah. And I have to ask you, was that script that you saw like written as like a photocopy of the script as a script to be written, or was it like, oh wow, okay,
yep,
like somebody really
photocopy, yep, oh yeah, no one.
That's crazy, as opposed to kind of like somebody recreating it from having watched it. That's so interesting.
Yep, it was a PDF. I do remember that.
It was a
It was the
PDF.
early
Wow.
days of
Okay.
a
PDF.
whatever they called a PDF back then. But yes, it
They
was very much
probably
just
called
like
it a PDF.
image, click, image, click, image, click, full script read,
Wow.
digest it, move on, move on, move on.
Just think, somebody had to download that to a floppy disk and upload it to wherever you were. Just think
Yes,
about that for a minute.
That's right. Someone in probably Australia or something like that when they're filming this is like, well, no one will find this out.
That's so crazy.
That's the thing though, is like you could bury things on the internet back then.
You could.
And they might never get found by people. But like nowadays it was just it spreads like wildfire. But like
Yeah,
they
weren't
weren't
prepared
like, I
for
had
a
this small
9-year-old
website.
to go 10 pages
Yeah.
deep on a Google search and really, find his way through.
Just have the right combo of terms to put that one up in the
Honestly,
search.
that's all you needed to do back then.
Well, yeah, I respect it. That's some serious hustle, honestly.
Yeah. Now you'd be like Revenge of the Sith leaked script, and then you'd get like the AI overview that's like Revenge of the Sith came out in 1977 and was directed by Lawrence Kasdan. You're like, that's not right. That's not right at all.
And then you're gonna get 10 articles that are listicles about the top 10 things in Revenge of the Sith because we all love that SEO.
Yep.
Oh,
And then I'll get
internet.
I'll get a link to the CinemaSins 2-part episode on
Oh my
everything wrong with Revenge of the Sith. That's like an hour long, and I'm like, okay, it's not that bad, guys.
Ding.
There's a lot of exactly. I was like, not everything is a wrong with this movie. It's just your opinion at some point. But anywho, I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CinemaSins is fun until people take it like really seriously, you know?
Yeah, and
You're
a lot
like,
of people
I don't-
did at one point.
Yeah,
It's such a holdover culture. I was like, not everything is a
Yeah.
sin, guys. Take the
So
joke.
I remember watching those and being like, that's funny. Or like, I really like that movie. I don't agree. And then I just like move on with my day. Why couldn't everybody?
Yeah.
That's
I just want to make one final comment,
go
by
ahead.
the way, while we're on the topic of the internet. So I did
Yes.
pull up on the Wayback Machine, December 14th, 2004.
Ooh.
There's a login screen for StarWars.com.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you found the script.
No, I found the script. Guys, I got to get this on Twitter right now. And it's an ad, and it says hyperspace member only episode 3 trailer preview. Join today. Watch an extra large version of the episode 3 teaser trailer for only $39.95. Guys, that is the deal of a lifetime. If we just pitch in each of us $13.32.5, we can do this.
And share the login.
We can watch the
We can make
extra
it happen.
large version. Okay, anyways, sorry.
Wow. I don't even know what that means, the extra large version. Like, is it going
Now I
to
need to know.
fit whatever computer screen I have at that time?
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe.
is my compact computer going to be enough? Is my gateway going to be able to hold it?
The answer
Yeah, like
is
the question-
certainly not.
The question is, how far will Wayback Machine let me go? And so far, it's continuing to let me sign up. Like, will it take my credit card information? Okay, no, it actually just crashed. It just
Dang,
crashed.
I thought
Doesn't go that
Lucasfilm
far.
was always gunning for some cash. They won't hold
Yeah.
back.
Wow.
If you want to give them money to a link posted 20 plus years ago,
Yeah.
then
Wow.
Canada $49.95, international
Oof.
$19.95. The dollar was not doing well back in the day. Like, damn.
Well, the Bush administration, we just invaded Iraq.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Stop happening.
You're either with me or you're my enemy. Very much
Yeah,
poignant
yeah.
in this movie.
Bit on the
Yeah.
nose about the situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the politics
man.
of Revenge of the Sith, and scarily, the politics of today also ring
True
well
that.
in this
True that.
in this adventure. Anywho, let's get to our first viewing of this movie here. Let's start with you, Brad. What was that experience like? Where did you see it? You said you remember exactly where and when you saw it. What was that like? Did you see it with anybody, and what was the initial reactions like?
Yeah. This is when I was growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, which Sarah
Love
refuses
it.
to believe, and she's like, "You're not from Chicago," and I'm like, "I spent my whole life there almost."
I don't believe it still.
It really.
I live in the suburbs of Chicago now.
Next time I
To
visit
be
you,
clear.
I'm going to drive you to the theater I saw Rots at, and we're gonna.
Oh my
see
god,
it.
please! That'd be
The
so much
Mando
fun.
and
Okay.
Grogu movie. Wait, we should
a
do
trip.
that.
There you go.
We should do that.
We should
Will
do
you
that.
Will you see it with me if I come visit and we go to that theater and go see it? It's not a no, folks. But I saw it there. It was in this
Is
like
the theater
little...
still open? Is the question, because I know so many theaters are out
I
now.
hope so. I'm gonna have to check now that you asked.
All right, we'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, it was in this like little plaza area. It was the plaza where I always, my brother and I always used to go to Barnes and Noble, and we would
man.
read there. And he would get his coffee, and I would just sit there and read Star Wars books. Um, and tons of shopping there. But yeah, we went there, saw it, got this big popcorn. Um, Obviously, like, it's hard to remember, like, I remember, like, bits and pieces of it for the first time, but, like, definitely the
Hmm.
opening battle, definitely Anakin versus Obi-Wan. Um, and then I remember more about the ending of the movie on, like, my second or third showing where I think we saw it in IMAX, and I
Oh,
just remember,
amazing.
like, being so excited throughout the movie to be like, "I can't wait till we get to Darth Vader, and see him
Mm,
again." I'm like typical young boy.
yeah, you're like, get me
Um,
to the end here. This is where the fun stuff is. I don't need this
yeah.
political intrigue about deception and how he turns to the dark side.
Yeah. And I just remember every time I saw it in theaters being like, "Oh, I can't wait for, like, the fall to the dark side," and, like, everything kinda just falls apart
Hmm.
and gets real intense.
Yeah,
There's just so much fun things, so many fun things in the movie, so many fun action set pieces, and just, like, visually, it really holds up still. Like, the
yeah,
special
I
effects
agree.
are just still so good, and it's really impressive what George could do in 2005.
I'll be honest. Yeah, like there's so much more practical in this movie than I ever expected. I don't know if you both have seen
Mm,
Light and Magic season 2 yet, but there's some
Yeah.
great Revenge of the Sith stuff in there that I won't spoil it for you all. But there's some fun things in there that'll make you never look at this movie the same. I think again.
good. I always like learning new things about no, like I mean that genuinely. I know that sounds like really ridiculous and facetious and very like very simple, but like no, like genuinely. I love having my perspective changed and I love like learning new things and like every time you have the opportunity to see a prop or see a behind the scenes of a scene you've never seen before
Yeah,
or
yeah,
see something in person, it's like, oh, it gives you a different perspective on the work, like the genuine work that was done to bring
absolutely.
these movies to life. That I mean, that's what I'm getting at here. I promise. I'm not I'm not
That's
saying that very simple sentence with nothing behind it.
a lot more behind it than you actually are giving yourself credit for here.
Fair, fair.
Well, Sarah, again, what was your, if you can, were you picking out this film for the first time? Does it have any remembrances, anything that stand out for you? Is you're just like, this is one long story? It's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely watched it like, watched the movies all in release order. But after that initial like like sitting down for like Star Wars 77 was the 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 key memory that I have
Okay.
from
Yeah.
getting into Star Wars. So I don't have a specific memory of seeing this movie for the first time, but our chairs and couches and TV location are in the same configuration now that they have always been in.
That's never
So
change. Never change.
it's really the only way to set up my living room. but but the TV's just gotten bigger over the years.
Sure, sure, sure. From
But I remember
full screen box to plasma screen.
that's right. To like my dad, I still live at home, and so my dad is like, "Well, what if we got an even bigger TV?" And I'm like, "Dad, the one that we have right now barely fits on the TV stand. What are we going to do with a larger television? It's going to be unproportional. It's not going to
Whoa,
work."
whoa,
Anyway,
whoa! Now, Sarah, I'm
we
I'm team
oh,
Sarah's
oh.
dad on this one.
we
The
we
TV
make up
can
for
always be bigger.
oh my gosh. We make up for it with a really good sound system. We have a really good sound system in the living
The
room.
TV can also be bigger
Oh
with the sound
gosh.
system.
um so we had like a modest by today's standards but very expensive TV at the time, and I have memories of just my childhood of my brother and I. Again, we have the same TV stand in the house now that we've had forever. Of my brother and I, opening the DVD drawer in the center of this TV stand and pulling out the prequels, which are always situated at the front, and sitting, I mean, directly in front of the TV. Like, who needs couches? Who needs
Heck
chairs?
yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Sitting directly in front of the TV and just enjoying our couple of hours there. And the room I'm sitting in now used to be my brother's room. And for a time after um, Revenge of the Sith came out, I'm thinking this all must have been like 2006, 2007, 2008, but I really don't know. This is one of those things that
Hey,
bothers
they
me
all
to
blur.
this
That's
day. But
okay.
like this room was like a dark blue gray, and the fathead wall clings.
Yes,
Um,
yes, I do.
my brother had a Yoda over here, like episode 3, like flying Yoda. He had a Boba Fett over there, and he had a bunch of little ones all around. And oh, there was an R2D2 as well. And I remember being in this room and talking about Star Wars with him and building Star Wars with him. And so I know that these memories are so vague, but like it's like once Star Wars was there, it was really just all there. Um,
Yeah.
and and for me that's a positive memory because while you both have like these very specific memories of the lead up to this film, um I find it really interesting that I don't.
I do too.
And
Yeah.
and that I've come back around to Star Wars. My brother's not super into Star Wars these days. He's very casual, and I'm the one who's
Mm-hmm.
now been in it for the past decade in a very like
Sure.
active fandom sort of sense. Again, I am skirting around your questions to the best of my ability,
You're doing
but
great.
but it's it's one of those things where like I remember reading some of the junior supplementary books. I remember watching the movie a ton of times, but I have no recollection of learning the story specifically.
I think that's fascinating. Oh, go ahead.
Do you remember like the Patricia C. Werde like junior novelizations? Read the
Ooh,
heck out of
yes.
those too. But that would have been, of course, after I had already seen everything.
Did you get them at the Scholastic Book Fair like I did too?
You know, it's highly possible. I big book fair girly. Big book
Yeah,
fair
yeah,
girly.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was a big day in the school when that setup
absolutely.
was happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's very much a wonderful perspective, I think, on the entryway into the story here. And also, I have to ask, where are the fatheads now? Where did they go? What happened to them? Are they safe? Are they all right? Are they
No.
gone?
Yeah.
Oh no! Did they die of a
So
broken heart too? Because I'm about
they
to die of a
did.
broken heart from the
They
loss of these fatheads.
tell me about it because here's a real story that I still have some real bitterness over. So like my brother, a handful of years later, wanted to switch around his room and painted a new color, and so him and my mom, what the fuck, respectfully, I'm so sorry, I cursed. But like mom, what the what? They took them all down, and instead of because like you can resell them, they'll recling all that jazz.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, yeah, they will.
he they crumpled all of them. They crumpled all of them and threw them all out. And I was like,
It's ruined.
so I have one and it is just the Star Wars logo and it lives on the interior of my closet. I was able to save only one of them. So I actually mourn the loss of the fatheads every day. I think about them far more than I probably should.
Every time you see the Star Wars one, you're like, we could have had more. We could have had it all.
Yeah, like I just can't believe like they crumpled them and threw them out. Like that was like as someone who like is terrible, like I don't throw things out, which is also like the other end of the spectrum is a problem. Like maybe I should be a little bit more freely willing to like give things up or pass things along, but I'm not. I was like, you didn't even roll them up, you just crumpled them. Like it was the most heinous thing anybody could have done in that moment. But I'm happy to report that all of the Star Wars Legos my brother had and that we had together have
Hmm.
survived. They
They've
are
been
in
salvaged.
plastic
Okay,
bags
great,
in the basement, so all the pieces are
wonderful.
there. We can rebuild them at any time.
we if you build it, they will come. We can rebuild these.
No, we've got some there's some really like good classic sets in there, but none of them have the boxes. So I don't think they have any like solid resale value. But there might be a day when I decide I want to put one of them together again.
Honestly, it's a great rainy Saturday or Sunday activity. Throw on if you still got a DVD player. Get nostalgic and get that Revenge of the Sith DVD out again, and
You're so
put
real.
that
Oh,
on the
yeah.
large TV. I'm sure it's got some hookup possible for it.
Oh yeah.
There.
Yeah.
And yeah, put one of those old sets together again. Relive the old days.
See, the problem is then once I put it together, I'll really struggle to take it apart again. And a lot of these sets, like I really respect the people who have like full rooms dedicated to displaying
Yeah.
every Lego they've ever built. But I don't have that sort of space, and so like I can't take it apart again.
I know I have the Dark Millennium Falcon from the Rebuild the Galaxy sitting over here,
Mm-hmm.
and
Ooh.
I'm like, I don't want to take it out of the box. It's like the space constraints are one thing, then it's also
Yeah.
like it's a commitment once you start.
Yes.
There's a lot to it, and like I don't know if I got the time. It's a lot of time.
I've got a friend who once we lived together in college, and once they moved out and got their own apartment, they really dedicated their space to their books
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the Legos, the big adult,
You gotta
like, very
choose. Yep.
expensive Star Wars Lego sets they bought. I was always so impressed. I was like, "You bought the AT-AT, the big $800 AT-AT? Incredible." Like,
Yeah.
A plus.
Yeah.
And so I just really respect that they used their space in that way.
Gotta respect the hustle. I'll tell you that. It is a commitment. It's a commitment with
It
these
totally
things.
is.
We are living in homes or apartments. Space is it's not infinite.
Yeah.
And also displays like bookshelves are not cheap anymore.
No.
And finding ones that fit your space and all that, like it's a hassle and it's a time constraint thing too. And you're like, well, it's a full on effort. So I respect all that across the board here when it comes to the Lego and the putting together of things and all of that. For me, my first viewing was opening night. I had to beg my mom to go see it opening night because I knew, my uncle was getting married the next day in Pittsburgh, which is a 4-hour drive from Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. And I knew that if I did not see it on opening night, that on Monday it would have been the big talk at the lunch table, and I would have been the odd person out. And I'm like, I can't be that. Mom, you don't understand. Like I don't have a lot of friends. I got to keep the ones that I got, and I have to talk Star Wars with them. And I also didn't want to be spoiled. And there was also a part of me that was like, I have to know if I was right. Was that script right? So after much begging and pleading, we were able to go that opening night, and absolutely loved it. It was a fantastic experience from start to finish. And once I saw the crawl, I was like, yep, that was right. And then as the film went on, there was more and more bits where I'm like, okay, that was in the script. That was in the script here. So even knowing what was happening and then having it confirmed did not spoil my hype or interest or enjoyment of this film whatsoever. So, which is interesting because I think we talk a lot about internet culture here. There's a lot of people that are like, if they're spoiled to like one cameo or something like that in a movie or one plot point, they're like, it's ruined. This film is ruined for me. I'll never enjoy it. I knew about this going into, or they predict the plot and they're like, it's not the same movie for me anymore. Right? It's ruined. And for me, I'm like, I knew the entire thing and it was totally fine. I had a great time. So your approach, if your focus determines your reality in many ways.
Totally.
So it worked out great. I had a great time. And I will say, the thing that the script did not do well was explain action. So the whole Mustafar sequence was almost like watching it again. Also, just confirming that it did happen. But the how was interesting to see how it played out. Right, they could never write the fun choreography that was all over the place with that whole fight sequence there. Almost to the point that like my buddy and I had our portable DVD player and some Nerf baseball bats, and we would rewind and play that sequence so many times until we learned that fight choreography. We had it down, folks. Could I do it now? No. But if you ask 2006 Anthony, I definitely would have been able to have it up and ready for everybody at a moment's notice. So wonderful movie.
Same.
I still
Big
love it to
same.
this day. Yeah, big same.
Remember having a Force VFX or Force
Yes!
FX lightsaber that my grandma
Weren't
got
those
me for
so
Christmas in 2004, and I just remember we had this big garage in our condo that we were living in. That's like very long garage, and I would just go down there, and I would just like go back and forth because it was just a straight shot.
Yeah,
just doing the moves in the garage, and they're like,
was
why
it
is
the
this, why is this kid
Anakin
here?
red blue change one?
No, it was
I had that
Luke's Empire Strikes Back one, which I
very
have in my
cool, too.
closet right here actually still, but yeah.
Never get rid
I've
of it.
got Sidious's and the red blue change one and Mace Windu's, although I did like take that one apart and I haven't been able to put it back together. But
Well,
I still have them. They're still in the basement.
May they
right here, I
survive
got it.
forever. Oh man,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Still,
That's awesome.
Still here. Battle damaged. It's a little sticky on the grip.
It's
for
been
some
through the
reason.
wars. Yeah.
I don't know why.
Who knows? Hey, it's been 20 years.
Right.
like it happens. I will say too, from that era, I loved the very clunky voice change Vader mask. That was a big thing back then.
Ooh.
I loved going to Kmart and seeing that thing and like, will someone buy this? My mom was like, I'm never buying that for you. But I was like, I need this. Someone buy it. I need to see if it works.
Right.
And it kind of worked. It just did, it never fully does the Vader take away your voice modulator thing.
Did you know there was I think you put together this kit and it was Anakin's like prosthetic hand. And like if
What?
you I had this. I remember where it sat, like, in our living room, and you, like, built this kit, and then you would be able to articulate, like, the fingers and have them retract,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and it
Whoa.
was all the it was really cool. I'll have to see if I can find it online, like, what the
Please
specific
do. Please
like,
do.
I remember a couple of toys, like, I had the Tri-Fighter with the Buzz Droids. Oh my god, I dream about that toy. I don't know why, like, it just had a really soft plastic touch to it. I was so distinctly
Oh,
remember this.
wow.
And we don't have that one anymore, with the Buzz Droids, but, or the hand one, but those are toys that I distinctly remember having alongside the lightsabers, and, yeah, it must have been 2006 or 2007. Ah!
That was great. Yeah, I mean, everything behind this, the marketing of this movie was incredible. I think from the start, I think it helped. Like, you know, we all knew where it was kind of ending up at a certain point. Like, the
Right.
Vader didn't need to be a hidden reveal. Like, it was coming.
Right.
So like he can be a part of all the marketing scheme of this whole thing. All the toy. I feel like there was a action figure that was like literally burnt Anakin.
Oh my god.
So, like they didn't hold back at all. There was something for everybody. And yeah, I loved seeing that burnt Anakin one at Kmart every time I walked by, and I was like, maybe one day I'll buy this. Never had enough allowance money for it. You know, Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Beyblades took away my allowance very much so back then.
It's freaking Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Jeez.
I know.
It was me and the Webkins.
Ooh, another throwback there. I tell you. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 20 years have passed. Does the film still hold up? Sarah, let's throw this one to you first here. Does it hold up?
Okay, I've
What
got
do
a
you think
great
about
answer
it?
for this one.
All right.
I recently saw the film for the first time in theaters at the 20th re-release. I'd never seen it in theaters before. And
the
I wasn't a
widescreen
great
version, right?
Yes. And I was not a great audience member, I'll be really honest, because it was like 24 hours just past that after I'd gotten back from Japan and Korea. And so the jet lag do be hitting.
It do.
Unfortunately. Yeah. So was I awake the entire movie? No. Did I try my very, 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 very hardest for the love of the game? Yes. But my God, does that movie absolutely rip? Like, it moves so fast on the big screen, and I don't think I realized how fast the movie moved until I saw it in a theater, like with that particular level of focus and in that setting. Oh my God. Like, I mean, I enjoyed it as a kid, but I also enjoyed it with the dog making noise in the kitchen, or my mom cooking, or us being on the road.
Yeah, all the background noise.
I enjoyed it as part of my life, and getting to watch it as a movie in a very particular way was so interesting. And like, my God, the score goes so hard, and it's so fast paced, and the dramatic fall of everything is so emotionally punchy, and it hits, and it's like really incredible to see on screen now, and yeah, I think it holds up. I love that movie. Of course there are things you can criticize with the writing style, or the direction, and the delivery. However, like, I think there's so much that's being said in that movie. The subtext is really loud and interesting and complex, and you know, if it had gotten 24 episodes like Andor just did, like, I think it would have been just as deep and interesting as that period of time. Like, I feel really strongly about the Star Wars politics, and the senators and all that stuff. Like, I love Padme. So you know, that was huge, and it still remains, you know, to be huge for me. But yeah, no, this movie 20 years later is still so good. It's also absurdly memeable. Like, it's crazy how many memes come out of this movie. Like every other minute. Absolutely wild. Yeah, I love Rots. Like, I have Rots toys that I keep finding from 2005, like, on my displays. I think about Rots all the time. Like, it's definitely a top Star Wars movie for me. It still means a lot to me. I still like it just as much, if not more.
Yeah. Well, I think that's awesome, and it seems like it was a revolutionary experience in some ways, like seeing it on the big screen again without, like you said, it's so interesting not having the household distractions, if you will. Like, I feel like, not to speak for you here, but it's kind of interesting. Like, you probably at certain parts are like, we were sitting in traffic when I watched this scene, or I remember like being on a certain road trip and like remembering the scenery as we're going through this, and like now you're like, now I'm in a dark theater focusing on this on the big screen here.
Yeah, I had never heard the movie like that before. Like, I literally just never heard it like that before.
Good system. Yeah.
On a good system, when the music, I mean, I've always been just a huge fan of that particular score, of all the scores, of course, but that one in particular. And
Yeah.
to hear it on this big screen, it was just incredible. And I'm I'm waiting for so like the symphonies will do the orchestral music
Yeah.
alongside the
Yeah.
movie, and I've had the opportunity to see all of the original trilogy that way with the Chicago Symphony.
Hmm.
Um and I know that they've licensed out at least The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi
Hmm.
to symphonies,
Hmm.
but the Chicago Symphony hasn't taken those up yet. And I'm just like waiting for the time that they do the sequels and the prequels. Like, please give it to me. They used to do one that was like 2016, 2018, and maybe like 2022 or 2021, because obviously
Yeah.
2020. So they did them like every 2 years, but like, where are they now? Where are they now? I want
Are
them.
they
I
are
am the
they
audience.
safe?
I
Are
will
they
pay
all
top
right?
dollar. Yes. But yeah, I would love to see. Point being, I would love to see Rots that way.
I think so too. Not to uh, toot my own horn here, but I was fortunate enough a couple of years ago to live in the Washington D.C. area, and with the National Symphony Orchestra there, they did a Star Wars celebratory evening where
Oh,
they played one track from each of the films at that time. So one from Phantom Menace, one from Attack of the Clones, one from Revenge of the Sith. Solo they played a track from, and Red Rogue One, all the way up to at that point they hadn't gotten licensing yet from Rise of Skywalker to do something like that yet, but they got written permission from John Williams himself to do an arrangement for it. So, but for it's all long story short, the Battle of the Heroes was the choice for Revenge of the Sith, and
beautiful.
it was amazing. So I do hope that one day that it is given its just due, because I agree with you. I think the score is fantastic and almost the greatest hits of sorts. But we'll talk about the score in a little bit here. We'll give it its heyday. Um, but a great also good. You know, you did your due diligence as a Star Wars podcaster to go see it in the theater after
We had something going
after a
on.
big flight.
We had something going on like Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and then it was out of the theaters. And I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And so like, I
Man,
think I went to go see it Monday
whose
night. I was like,
bright idea was it
oh my
to
God.
a Star Wars celebration in in a different land? Light and Magic season 2 drop, Andor drop,
Mm-hmm.
3
Mm-hmm.
episodes the next following Tuesday, a May 4th Tales of the Underworld, and Revenge of the Sith, all in like the same 2 week time frame here. Whose idea was it? Now we're in like this time where it's like, what is anything? I don't even know what happened last month. But May and early May, late April was just like a full blur.
It's
It felt
crazy.
like it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I feel like they would have pushed Rots maybe a little later, but then you have Mission Impossible and some of those other movies coming out.
Yeah, true. It would have got lost in the sauce. Yeah, and especially they don't want to compete
Yeah.
with Lilo and Stitch, the juggernaut in the box office these days.
Oh, yeah, true, because that came out. Yeah, Roth's weekend anniversary that came out. Yeah.
Yeah. Brad, did you after a long flight watch this as well? Do your due diligence as a Star Wars podcaster to see this in the theater, and you know, how do you think this film holds up 20 years later?
Yeah, so I did see it in the theaters. We got back Friday night from Japan, and then the next day we did a Sinners Revenge of the Sith back-to-back double
Ooh,
feature.
that's a double feature, I tell you.
Which was great. It actually like ended up keeping us awake, which was pretty good. Surprisingly, but you'd think in a dark theater you just fall asleep. Clearly Sarah failed the assignment here.
I had to turn on some really loud music to drive home.
Man,
I gotta tell you
struggle
though,
busing.
I'm curious, did you like fall asleep? Like obviously if you watched it on road trips and stuff like that, maybe you were just like naturally in tune to fall asleep at various points of the movie, or it was like this is my nap time.
I don't think so.
Yo, she's like
I
a
don't think so.
Pavlovian dog with Revenge of the Sith.
You know, there's
Count
been some
Dooku gets his head cut
time.
off. Nap time.
It's been some time since then. I've watched the movie a number of times. You know, I think we've grown out of that, if that's the
Sure,
case.
grown out of it. Okay,
I
that's
just
fair.
the theater was cool, you know, like a chilly, and that's like, ooh, sleep time. And then my brain, I was fighting for my life.
Yep, you were
The whole
12 hours
time.
ahead.
Yeah. No, it was really good. Okay, keep going, Brad.
Yeah. But I do think the movie holds up. I will say too, like to your point about the memes of it, Sarah, I was worried that like my audience, because I'm like I'm very weird with theaters. Like
yes, me too.
I really like am very particular about the audience and like
Yeah,
the
theater
haters
etiquette
of the
drives you up a wall.
audience. Yeah, and like the smallest things will just make me have a bad experience. So like I was really worried about going and people like continuously laughing at every like moment. It's like that's a meme because like everything's been so memed to death.
Yeah.
And so it's tough when like, you know, Padme is dying and you're like, she's lost the will to live, and like people start laughing and you're just like, okay. So luckily
This
though that
isn't a laughing
didn't.
moment, guys. She's dying.
Yeah. Or like, you know, people are gonna laugh at like, what are we going to do, Master Skywalker? Like
Oh wow.
they're killing
They laughed
children, you
and
know.
cheered at that moment? That's wild.
Well, not for my audience, luckily. Like I think some of the ones you would typically want to laugh at, like Another Happy Landing, like those ones got the
Yeah.
laughs.
Yeah, the actual
But
jokes.
luckily my audience was pretty pretty well behaved. But that was my biggest worry going into it. Is just like, how does this movie hold up from a meme perspective of like, can people truly enjoy it, or are they just going for the laughs?
Yeah. We're not Morbin time in this endeavor.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was a really good experience to see it again. It's like probably my fourth or fifth time in the theater. I think it does hold up. Again, visual effects look great. The writing, not great, unfortunately, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We
I'm
make
not
up
here
for it
to
with the
to
Ross
yap about it.
novelization. Yeah. It's like there's no point belaboring like writing about the prequels 20 years later. It's like, well, what is the, you know, what's the value in that? And yeah, it's just, yeah, it is weird in hindsight thinking like at the time this was the end of the saga, and you know now we have so much more Star Wars. So it's just it's wild. So like it's weird going back to revisit it knowing like what we know came after, and
Yeah.
versus, you know, doing a rewatch in 2009 or 2010 when you're asking, hey, does it
Mhm.
hold up?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a different answer probably at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've really been through it as Star Wars fans.
We really have. I mean, you're saying like, yeah, we got the Blu-ray set, and now you're rewatching it again because you're like, oh, what changes did George do potentially
Yeah.
here in these? And you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
he
does the film
threw
hold
the
up? Maybe the CG doesn't, fully stand up a few years later. But I think overall, like you're saying, like a lot of this film holds up. In terms
Totally.
of George got everything that he wanted out of it. Let's just say that this is a film that George can't really complain about. I think when you look at it, like it's his writing. He's happy with it. He directed it. He got the performances out of the actors. This isn't like the original trilogy where he's like, oh, I wish I had done these things differently here, and now I have to go back and make some edits accordingly. Now that technology is updated to where it actually will meet the vision in my head here. And yeah, I think that there's so much about this movie, not just well, I guess the story of it, right? Like in today, 2025, right? The idea of government falling into fascism arguably is more potent now than it is back then. And I know that George was like writing this in a time that like the Iraq War had just started, 9/11, post 9/11. So all that's influencing him, and this is very much particular the Anakin. If you're not with me, you're my enemy. Is literally a direct quote from our president at that time. And just this is a simple story about how a guy with good intentions, like I think a lot of people are around the world, can be coerced into supporting a fascist dictatorship, and how a democracy can literally give power away to a dictator-like individual that will then engulf the galaxy in upwards of 19 plus years of murder and disaster and genocide and not fun things across the board here. So it's very stark watching this 20 years later, just with the current context, I think, that is playing around in the world these days. And I think the lesson that I ultimately taking from this movie in this context, this day and age, is right. The seduction of Anakin is really interesting in many ways because Anakin he's obviously has this major fear, right? He's going to lose Padme, and this the fear of loss that ultimately leads him down to the choice that he makes, and he makes his choices for sure. But it's Palpatine's almost interesting, delicious seduction along the way that is the most thing that stands out to me. And he's from the start, he's always like he's very clear about it. He's like, oh well, with the Plagueis thing, where he's like, oh, I'll dangle this fruit here, this forbidden fruit. Oh, we'll figure out. Oh, I know a guy, or seemingly I know a guy, or there's someone in the past that has done this. They've saved someone's life. They've stopped someone from dying. And then he's like, oh, is it possible to learn this, but not from a Jedi? Okay, well, maybe I have to dabble a little dark side magic here to figure that out. And then ultimately he's like, through me, only through me will you be able to save the ones you love. He has an ultimatum speech with him there. So he's basically saying, all right, it's only through me that you'll be able to achieve this. And then he's giving him this very simple solution to a very complex problem, stopping someone from dying, where there are like 1,000 different ways that someone could either die, and he's trying to stop all eventualities with one simple solution. And even once Anakin pledges himself to Palpatine, he's automatically backtracking what he just said there. He's like, well, only one has achieved death, but if we work together, then we'll be able to solve it together. And then later on, he's like, well, if you go to the temple and take out all the people, then you'll be strong enough in the dark side. We'll be able to do this together here. And then ultimately it just comes to, well, you killed Padme. He's automatically backtracking. He never had I don't think he ever had a plan in the process where Padme survives in this endeavor. But I think that's just a telltale sign of what fascist dictators do, is they give easy, simple solutions for very complex problems. And complex problems are complex for a reason, right? No one wants to let problems exist in the world, and they are complex because there's a lot of things that go in the way, and that's just the way things kind of work in a democracy. It's messy. It's not always efficient, and sometimes it's inefficient for a reason. And ultimately, when people come along and they give these simple solutions, and that's how people get trapped in these situations here. So again, not to get off my, I'll get off my soapbox here a little bit here, but this film really stands out along that kind of context in this day and age here. And thank you for listening to my TED Talk about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I mean, it's just like Andor, right? Because like they wrote season 2
also that
before
too.
they knew the results of the election, and yet within 4 weeks of the Gorman massacre episode, we're seeing kind of the role of propaganda and the escalation
Absolutely.
of peaceful protests in Los Angeles, and the use of armed forces against citizens. So it's like the like Star Wars isn't necessarily saying anything unique in a way, because right, it's just sort of telling history through the lens of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like something like from 2005 can echo so heavily, because we're basically seeing what happened in the 30s and the 40s, like a century ago, and so it's like history unfortunately repeats itself. And yeah, on the point of like democracy and like democracies being given away, I think that's one of my favorite George quotes that come out of this film. And yeah, like ultimately one of the only reasons democracy has worked, it's kind of funny to think that like our whole democracy is built on like a piece of paper. Basically, it's like this piece of paper
very fragile
is
piece
the Constitution, and it only works if we all believe that this piece of paper is the law of the land and that we should follow it. And like, we got to do our best to preserve that piece of paper. And I don't think we've ever really questioned, well, what happens if somebody comes in and doesn't want to abide by what's on that piece of paper? Is there anything in that piece of paper stopping them? Well, no, not really. It's just kind of always been vibes in the honor code. Like, it's like, okay,
will the courts
now,
actually stop them? Can they?
yeah. It's like, so when you start to see how far you can go to break those rules and bend those rules, and again, like nobody's stopping you, and it's like, oh, I'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually it will break. But it's like, how much pushing are we going to have to bear witness to and feel before we hit some sort of like revolution, civil war breaking point, because that's not unique to our history either. So yeah, it's really alarming. And I hate to be like, every time something happens in our world, be like Star Wars, but like, we exist in a Star Wars fandom space. We talk about Star Wars. We have friends that we've met through Star Wars. So
absolutely.
Like, of course, those comparisons and those parallels are going to be top of mind for us. Not that we should care more about the things that happen in Star Wars than in the real world, obviously. But I think like Sarah, you and I've talked about this too offline. I'm just like, I think, for somebody who is maybe not plugged into politics or doesn't see what's happening as wrong, but they're a Star Wars fan, and like maybe if you tell it to them in that way, like maybe they then make that connection and are brought into the conversation, or they can like step through that door because you're talking to them on terms that they understand. And like, I think that's a net positive thing. Like if you can bring somebody into the rebellion, into the fold, by telling them this is wrong, look at what, isn't it pretty similar to Star Wars? And like, yeah, I kind of see that now. Actually, this is really bad. Um, obviously we all could wish that some people had that awakening sooner, but if they have that awakening at some point, that's a good thing, and we should celebrate that. And then they should then take the next steps to then get engaged, and so I think yeah, sorry, I'm soapboxing, but
Wait,
I
let
think
me
it's
soapbox
Please, yeah,
next.
I
Sarah
love the soapbox.
soapbox.
Sarah, take the
Um,
soapbox now.
I call my soapbox a little step stool because I literally have a little step stool that I like put my feet on. So on my step stool, something that you mentioned, Anthony, like at the top of your soapbox talk was just the idea of democracies being given away and watching that
Mhm.
happen um in this film and very quickly at that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Is one of those really interesting things, especially when you do compare it, as Brad you mentioned, to Andor. And now we have th- the story of Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith is um it's fast. It's 2.5 hours, and so much happens,
Mhm.
and we get some of that similar fall in Andor over in Rogue One over 20 hours worth of
At least, yeah.
time. And it's really interesting to see kind of this same moment in time, or a very similar moment in time, um politically, uh play out with such specificity, whereas the story of Revenge of the Sith has to be a little bit more grand, because of
Mhm.
the runtime that it has, because it doesn't have the time to get into the nitty-gritty of these moments. But I think, like, one through line on both of these is, when we talk about democracy being given away, we have to talk about the courage of our leaders,
Yeah.
who oppose democracy being given away. And you think of people like our characters, like Mon Mothma in her
Mhm.
incredible speech in episode 9 of season 2. You think about Padme's iconic line, like, which has been such a line that I think in the past Star Wars fans have brought up, and non-Star Wars fans have brought up in moments of political
Yeah. A good meme,
upheaval, or
perhaps. Yes.
right. Absolutely. It's a really great line. Or when we see us backsliding into fascism, or authoritarianism,
Yeah.
in general, this line gets brought up a lot. And it's interesting to have now both Mon Mothma and Padme, and also people like Bale, who are in the center of all of that as well. Uh, but they are very much in the minority of the people who stand up and say something as people in
Mhm.
power. And I think that's something that I think about when I watch both Revenge of the Sith and Andor, is the lack of courage of so many
Yeah.
of our
Yeah. Yeah.
leaders to speak up. And there could have been more people who spoke up in Revenge of the Sith, right? More senators
Mhm.
that joined on. Or if you've read The Mask of Fear,
Mhm.
more senators who joined on with Mon Mothma's bill right in the aftermath of that. Or more people who kind of were allied with the alliance. There's only a handful of them underground. And I think in our real world, our capitalistic democracy, we're a democratic
Yes.
republic,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
capitalism's role in our democracy has bought so many people off, and out, that they refuse to stand up for fear of losing their position of
Mm.
power. And I think that it is an inherently a cowardly thing. Um,
I agree.
and it's one of those things to me that, especially when we look at the fact that we only have two political parties in the United States that have any sort of viability, for both of them to be often in agreement about the ways that they are okay with backsliding into fascism. Um, it's one of those things to me that um, reflects quite clearly onto the Star Wars landscape, especially with the expanded specificity that Andor has given us of this time period, and that
Mhm. Mhm.
other media we're getting of this time period gives us. And yeah, it's really interesting to see the ways in which we can map our real world onto Star Wars and talk about these things with Star Wars terms. And I hope that for people who are joining this conversation for the first time, um,
Mhm.
continue to dive into the real life literature and the real life um,
Yeah.
history of all of that too, because there's a lot that I think that us as Star Wars fans, one, and us as citizens of not just our country but the world, right?
Yeah,
Can do
exactly.
to be better citizens. Okay, I'm off my step stool now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I like the "Be Better Citizens" is a great tagline. Just in general,
Em-
everyone be
That's
better
beautiful.
citizens. Be more
Be better
informed. Be
citizens,
be,
more
be
informed,
courageous.
more active in our communities, both locally and nationally. I think these are keys. I think so much of our world, like in the last 10 years, but especially in the last 5 years since COVID,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have become
yeah.
increasingly more isolated and also increasing more and more. Oh, but yeah, this I'm back on my step stool. I'm so
Hey,
sorry. I told you we were yappers. I told
take
you
the
we were
mantle
yappers.
again.
Um, Brad is going to like sigh when he hears this. I know. Um, but over the past 20 years, like since 9/11, since some of the policies that Bush put in place at the time,
Mhm.
and stuff that is, kind of directly commented on in Revenge of the Sith in some ways, is like we are increasingly comfortable with the way that governments surveil their citizens and the way that we
Yeah,
surveil our
yeah.
neighbors. And I think that makes us bad community members. We should
Mm,
be communicating with our neighbors and friends and not
yeah.
surveilling them. Um,
Mm.
and
You're
and
saying we
that's one of those.
shouldn't tell ICE about our neighbors that may or may not be of different origins.
Let's not do that, and let's also not put up license plate readers and cameras at the entrance of our subdivisions.
Ah, yes, another very
Oh, that's
valid
a
one.
personal one. Ooh, um, yeah, and the neighbor app or whatever, it's next door or whatever, you
Next door.
can
Yep,
relay.
yep.
Yep. I think
The
these things make
Tattletale
us
app, as I like to call it.
exactly. I think these things make us bad at community, and I think that we see over. I'm going to bring it back to Star Wars. I'm doing it. I promise. I think when we bring it back to Star Wars and think about the way that community falls apart in the aftermath of the Clone Wars, and why
Mm,
people are willing and able to accept the Empire as the thing, and willing to give away all of that, and then to see some of the rebuilding of that community in Andor, I think we as citizens have to. Um, Ask ourselves where we want to be and what communities we want to be a
yeah,
part of and
yeah,
what we're willing to give up personally in terms of privacy, in terms of safety, like what we're willing to give up to
yeah.
the government. I'm
What
sorry.
comforts
Okay.
are we willing to? Yeah, what comforts are we willing to forego in order to ensure that we have an equitable, safe society?
Right. And and how can we maintain our privacy from the government and all of the large capitalistic organizations that want all of our data all the time?
Oh man, yes, yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is a whole different conversation.
Oh
I
no,
love
this is
Revenge of the
this is
Sith
wonderful.
because it kind of brings us into these
Yeah,
some of
it
these
does.
topics, and I think this is like the meatiest time period in all of Star Wars. I'm so glad we continue to get media in
Absolutely,
this era, because this is stuff that I think like beyond Star Wars really matters. These sorts of topics, these sorts
100%
of
right.
who cares about the Force? Okay, I mean I do, but like who cares about the Force when we can talk about galactic the Galactic Republic falling. Okay, oh my gosh. Anyway.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you get the full gambit of it in this film, and it's a great
Mhm.
springboard by which we're able to talk about real life issues. Art imitates life, and George didn't write this just because it's a fun space opera fantasy adventure. Like, there's always something to glean from this film every time you watch it,
Right.
or in the new context. Like again, you watch it in 2020, you're gonna get different different mindset coming out of it versus now. You're gonna get a different feeling and set of opinions out of it afterwards too. And it's interesting what you say too about the downfall of community because almost immediately after Revenge of Sith starts Bad Batch, and
Mhm.
you right away see the people accepting chain codes and the many restrictions that the
Yep.
Empire puts on right away, and then like you said, Andor is the rebuilding of that community, literally of the Rebel Alliance in some ways, starting from Ferrix and then slowly going back to where we see Yavin and then the events of Rogue One. So it all ties together. It's all one story, just as you watched many years ago, Sarah, where there weren't episode chapters,
Absolutely.
just one long Star War.
That's right.
And speaking of gaps, I see. I got it back on. Back to the questions here,
Beautiful work.
folks.
Beautiful
Um,
work.
this film, Revenge of Sith, has many gaps. Or not doesn't have many gaps. It completes a lot of gaps that were in the Star Wars saga, especially at that time when it was supposed to be the final part of this story, or at least the final part in the middle of the story. Well, yeah, speaking of gaps, this film did such a great job in filling so many of them, especially in its place in the Star Wars saga and completing the saga as we knew it at that time. So, for example, right, we're talking Order 66, the birth of the twins, Anakin versus Obi-Wan. So, which reveal at the time were you most looking forward to, and why? And perhaps did the answer you received live up to your expectation? Brad, throwing this question to you first here. What are your thoughts on this matter?
Yeah. For me, definitely Darth Vader, because that was what we saw in the very first teaser trailer. And so for me, I was like, how do we get there
Mm-hmm.
first? Also, like Mustafar is in that first trailer, and that was unlike we had ever anything we had seen in Star Wars. I was like, well, Lava Planet, like what's that about? And it seems like a lot
Yeah.
more dark. And I knew it was a PG-13 movie, so I was like, I need to know what this is all about. So that whole again, like the whole final sequence of just like watching everything turn south so quickly, watching the battle, watching the scene of Vader getting all the pieces put on him, and like in during that whole scene, you're just like, oh my god, we're seeing him get built. Like this is wild.
Mm-hmm.
The little the little connectivity tissue thought in my brain was just like, oh yes, yum 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 yum, this is delicious, I need more of this. And then the moment the mask goes on, you hear the first Darth Vader breath is like
Love it.
so magic. It's just like, oh. You can even see the breath, you can even see like the air
Mm-hmm.
around the
The
mask
air
like
move.
push.
Oh,
It
so
sucks in
cool.
and then pushes out, so it's just such a beautiful shot. But I think that was the moment I think probably most fans were most excited for, honestly, was just seeing Vader again on screen in the theater.
Do you like the moment too? Because I like this, so I just want to get your thoughts on it. When like you could see the mask coming down, and it's like his eyes, and it's the last time like Anakin theoretically like looks at something until Luke takes the mask off.
Yeah.
In episode 6, I just love it because it's like, oh, this is my tomb now. This is my suffering. This is the consequences of my bad choices. Is rest of my life I'm suffering in this tomb of my own creation.
Yeah, I mean, I view that whole sequence as him not really having a choice. Like he's kind of having this
Yeah,
done to him
it's gone.
without his consent.
Oh
And
my
it's so
gosh, yeah.
I always view that exact moment as like a moment of, throughout this entire operation, he's been delirious, he doesn't know what's going on, he's just writhing in pain. And the moment he opens his eyes and sees that mask, it's a moment of panic of like, wait, what? Wait, what? It's like waking up. It's like imagine like waking up mid heart surgery. Like how would you feel in that moment?
Yes.
And you just see the tools
Yes.
and you can't do anything. Like the anesthesia breaks. So that's how I kind of view that moment of just like whatever's happening, and I have no choice in the matter. So this is my life. This is Anakin Skywalker forever.
This is Anakin. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a brutal moment.
It's funny that you bring that up, the whole anesthesia thing of it all, because I don't know if you're both aware, there is actually a Hayden Christensen movie from 2006 or 7 based off of that plot idea. It's
Oh,
called
wow.
Awake, where he's literally drugged in the middle of a surgery that would wake him up in the middle of surgery, but he's like, he doesn't act like he's awake, but he's conscious during it. So it's just like him suffering through the surgery. It's a horror movie. I don't know if you're a fan of that stuff, but it's interesting that came out after this, and that's an interesting point that you make, that it's like this is him in this moment of his own creation and suffering in that.
Yeah, I probably could never watch that because that's a thing that could happen in real life. So I probably will.
It's
probably
true.
will skip that one.
Yeah.
I can do like the It clown, but I can't do like wake up from anesthesia. And like, nope, absolutely not. But I do remember that movie. I do remember the poster. Now that I'm looking at it.
What was it important for you that Hayden was in the suit? Like, did you know Hayden was in the suit at the time?
Yeah, and I forget when they revealed it. I don't know if it was one of those web docs or if it was. I mean, I definitely watched the bonus feature that came out about him putting the suit on. So I watched. That was one of the things I was most excited to see, was the behind the scenes of that moment and him creating the Vader mold and the armor and everything. So that was one of my favorite little tidbits. So yeah, no, it was awesome to see him get to put that on. And then James Earl Jones coming back to voice. Not AI James Earl Jones, like the real one. Back in my day.
Nope.
And
him saying Padme, like that was a full circle moment for me.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool.
Sarah, throwing this to you now. What moment were you most looking forward to, and why? Or I guess we have to rephrase this question for you here.
Yeah. I'll pick this up as like when I start the movie. What am I most looking forward to? Because
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Well, if that's okay, I'll take it in that direction. Because
Go ahead.
to me, um, I've never been the girly who loves a masked character. For me,
Okay.
I like Anakin more than I like Darth Vader. I like Ben Solo more than I like Kylo Ren. That being said, Chimera / the Stranger's Mask is the sickest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's metal. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tooth Fairy, he is so very evil. But that is a mask I dig. But for me, I really like, being able to see the pain in their expression or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
the complexity in the expression. And so for me, it wasn't the Vader reveal that really ever is the thing that I'm looking most forward to. But typically, like, I love the opening sequence and I love how fast it moves and how exciting it is. And I
Yeah.
love Battle of the Heroes. Like, that whole sequence is so dynamic and interesting, and the sounds and the colors, and the fight choreography, and the way that everything crumbles for them and their relationship, and then the burning at the end and the high ground. Like, that's all so thrilling to me. So I think that's what when I start the movie, when I'm going to sit down, like, let's watch Rots, like, that's what I'm really looking forward to. I will take the time to talk about Utapau and Kashyyyk later.
Please do. Please
Because I
do.
am
Oh, go ahead.
also, well, you have like a question a little later that I really want to take the time to talk about
Oh,
Utapau.
no, I will wait for it then. Okay.
but like, I think those are like the set pieces that I'm looking forward to the most, or the reveals, or the
Mhm.
plot points that really push me through this movie. That, alongside, of course, like the fall of the Republic. And
Yeah.
this "How Liberty Dies with Thunderous Applause" line is always like, yes, 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 just because I love that particular Padme. I love her outfit. It's the best outfit she wears in any of the movies.
It's true.
That
It's true.
line is
It's a
so
good one.
iconic. She's got my space dad Bale behind her. It's like a perfect moment for me. Anyway, it's a terrible moment in the galaxy.
It's
Kind of an iconic moment.
yeah, no, she's doing that. Old Palpy's over there going, "My life is scarred and deformed."
And then he's like, "A new galactic empire," whole thing.
Yep, the unlimited power of it all is
absolutely
fully on display there, and not a great guy, folks. And I love that too. I love the intro. I love that, like, the drums kind of start this movie off, and like hearing that with the sound system again of the cinema screen was awesome. It took me back to 2005 again, and it starts off with a lens flare. Like, what a bold move to start this movie with in that time. Like,
that's so J.J.
Abrams being known for it. Yeah, like people. I remember, like, in 2015, people were worried that, like, how many lens flares are going to be in The Force Awakens, and like, there's already been a lens flare, you fools.
Well, it's because they had just rewatched Star Trek 2009 again, which loves its good lens flare. So they were fresh off of Star Trek 2009.
Yeah, ready to rock and roll. So I will say, for me, again, I think the Anakin Obi-Wan fight, just not knowing what that really meant, was pretty cool. One that I haven't really talked about a lot over the course of these episodes is I've enjoyed Grievous more than ever in these, at least, last couple of viewings here, and especially because I really appreciated the intro of him in the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series, and learning how he got his cough and just being like, what is this interesting assassin general guy that can fight Jedi with as many arms? And then he's almost a throwaway character, so to speak, in this film. But just the more inclusive nature of adding this villain here, another foil to the plot, to keep things going along here. A real general for the army, aside from Dooku, who's rest in peace, Christopher Lee. I think the Dooku of this all, again, it's seeing in the script. There was a guy named General Grievous, didn't know about it. Then I'm introduced to him via this fun animated series on Cartoon Network at the time, and then you get to see him in the movie. I'm like, oh, the voice isn't the same, but I'll take it. And then to get more time with him in the Clone Wars afterwards has been really fun. And yeah, Grievous, give Grievous his due in the sun these days. I'll take it. So we've talked a lot about things we like about this movie, and I think a healthy discussion also includes things that maybe didn't go so well, or things that we wish would change. So in hindsight, over the last 20 years, Is there perhaps anything in the film that you would change or wish had been presented differently? Sarah, let's start with you first on this one. Where are you going with this?
Padme.
Padme, the Padme of it all. Which part? Because there's a lot you could pick.
Yeah, and I have a hard time like really digging into this, I think, because I'm really grateful for Padme as a character and what we got from her and how much I love her and I like identify with her like as a fan. And she was also kind of that key pillar growing up. For me, it was Padme. For me, I just wish that she had more time to shine.
Okay, sure.
And more agency in her own story. Like, it's really Anakin going, I have to save her, I have to save her, I have to save her. And I like people have a lot of criticisms about losing the will to live, and I don't think I feel that strongly about it. But I also do think that could have been a stronger moment for her. Yeah. As I would just love more from Padme.
More Padme. I think we all could agree. More Padme, and not necessarily, just more. I like when you say agency, right? Just her taking control. I mean, like, I'm gonna be okay, Anakin. Like, if she had said that a bit more, I think he would have got to, come across a bit better versus him being like, I have to find dark magic secrets in order to keep you alive.
Maybe, but also like Anakin like was really struggling after the loss of his mom, and he's like, oh my god, there's only one other person, that I really feel like I have to,
not again. Not again.
So I think he was already in a bad position when it comes to the people that he loved and cared about. And his ability, I think he just has a lot of. He's someone who was a slave on Tatooine and was, only had his mother to trust, and I think that he wants connection. So like I can't blame him for his motives, and he feels like he's losing his pillar connections, and he's young. So anyway, his logic makes sense to me, but I want more from Padme.
You're absolutely right, Sarah. And in fact, I did my thesis in college about this same story, the fall of Anakin. There, so you're in good company with that sentiment
love that
there.
For you,
Brad. What, if anything, would you change about this film or wish would have been presented differently?
I would probably agree with Padme. I just think like maybe giving her more to do in the film, and like maybe I don't know, it's tough because like I know the movie's not about the formation of the rebellion, and so this is kind of me like, Andor pilled right now. I'm like, I want more about the rebellion in this movie. But that's not the story, right? Like the story is Anakin Skywalker. So we just now live in an era where like Star Wars is expanding so much beyond that, and we have other material to dive into that story. But I think Padme, maybe just the death, how it was handled. The loss of the will to live is pretty silly. So maybe just cut that part out.
Cut it out.
Just cut that part out. Yeah, like I mean,
you want to be more ambiguous.
Yeah, or maybe just like her respiratory system's failing. Like she got choked out. Like there was such an easy out there. It was like
she's 9 months pregnant on a volcanic planet, being choked by her husband who has turned to the dark side and killed people. You don't think that would have been good enough
for a while? There's like sulfur in the air. Like stuff's going down. So like it's very easy to be like, it's like being in a burning home for like too long. You just take all that air. You just go with the respiratory thing. It's like, nope, she just lost the will. Like, okay.
There's like a particular heartbreak in that though, because like you do see like elderly couples specifically who have lived together for decades and decades and decades dying fairly close to each other. So like that's not like the most implausible thing to ever have been said. But I do think you're right, Brad, in saying that like we're on a volcanic planet that's active and rupturing, and she's just been choked out and is medically fragile. Like there are legitimate medical reasons that this could have occurred, for sure.
Yeah I think the will to live thing still I think it still works, because it's like how much are you willing to fight? Like when you're on death's door, you gotta push through if you want to not see the light just yet. So there's still that element of it, but like maybe just adding in a little bit of more of a medical diagnosis in there. And that's me and my bombs falling from space moment about Revenge of the Sith. So like, but there was so much sulfur in the air. That's not
Oh.
realistic.
Oh man.
But
oh
I say
man.
that,
You took me back to 2018 here now.
Yeah.
A bad time.
What do you mean bombs can fall in space? There's no gravity. Okay. Who cares?
Who cares? Who cares?
It's not the point, guys. If you're hung up on that, then what are you doing here in Star Wars?
Real.
Anywho, yeah, I agree. Well, I think the Padme of it all is just the very interesting thing of it all. It's tough. Knowing that I don't think the character was going to live, but I think it's like that question of how do we portray this here in a film already where you have your main character killing kids and
Right.
and then choking out his wife. It's a film that's meant for 10 to 12-year-olds where they're like, oh, and he actually killed his wife too. Like that's George was like, that's one bridge too far. We're not crossing here on this one. We'll just leave it ambiguous here. She lost the will to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I also I think through it. I'm like, oh, it's a droid. Maybe they don't know. Maybe it's not a medical droid either. Too. They're just on Polis Massa. Who knows how good their systems are?
Real.
I've done some mental hoops here on this one over the years. Ultimately, I do wish that they had a bit more of a concrete answer. Even though apparently it's a full medical condition, losing the will to live is a valid scientific reason to die. So thanks, George, for making me look that up for many years and defending that.
Right. Absolutely.
I will say I wish there was more Padme in this too. I wish the deleted scene, the ones where about the formation of the rebellion,
Yes.
could have been included in some way, shape, or form. But I do understand the concept of this. There's pacing, and this is Anakin's story, and this is a really well paced film, so it needs to keep moving across the board. So ultimately, I'm fine with what we got here. If anything, I'm more upset that over the last 20 years, some ancillary Star Wars tale did not pick up the Padme starting the rebellion kind of storyline and move that, because I feel like that could have easily been in like season 7 of Clone Wars in like a scene or two, which they had a chance to go back and do some of that work and just didn't for whatever reason. So like, hey, could have done that, or a book. Admittedly, I haven't read the last one of the E.K. Johnson trilogy, so if it's in there, I apologize. But I don't think it is. So if there's a story to be told, perhaps maybe it's from Padme's perspective of Revenge of the Sith. So maybe in the in 5 years, if they do a 25th anniversary, the From a Certain Point of View book. I hope they don't wait till 40 years to do that for this book. But if they do the eventual Padme tale, then I think that's be included there.
I think the editors are like, what did we get ourselves into the first time we did it? We did it, and now we've done it twice more, and now they're asking for more.
They want more.
But
and then what
they're
do we do
so
beyond
great.
that?
They're genuinely so great. I'm glad that we have the original trilogy ones that we do have.
I agree. And sky's the limit. Give me the Andor From a Certain Point of View.
Oh my
gosh. a full Bible worth of stories.
Yes.
Oh, it'd be so fun. But speaking of fun things, I'd be at fault if we didn't bring up the Maestro. We've hinted at it here and there, but John Williams is a very central figure in this story and in this conversation, I think. So, and like I've said before, arguably Revenge of the Sith is like a greatest hits to me. In terms of the Star Wars of the prequel trilogy, but he also brings in a lot of the original trilogy into this film as well, because he thought, hey, this is my last hurrah. I'm never going to do this again, so let's leave it all out on the table here. So what is your favorite track and or musical beat within this film? Sarah, let's start with you on this one.
I'm ready. And if I contradict what I said on our Golden Gorgs this year, I apologize. But my top tracks are, of course, Padme's Ruminations. And I'm also such a big fan of General Grievous. Okay.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so
incredible. It hits so hard and hits even harder in the theater. Who would have thunk? Okay, who would have thunk? Not me, until this year when I saw it in the theater. But yeah, I agree with you that this score is like a greatest hits. It's just an incredible piece. The fact that it was not nominated, none of the prequels were nominated for the Oscars, just absolutely
mind-blowing,
cuckoo bananas. But yeah, General Grievous, I really love the big drums. I really love the big bold sound there. Padme's Ruminations, which is so unique and different than anything else we've ever gotten in Star Wars. It's so haunting and brilliant. Those are my two favorites. Of course, of course, I have to say Battle of the Heroes, or I'm a bad fan. But that one sticks out to me a little bit less, I think, than General Grievous and Padme's Ruminations.
Yeah, but the Padme's Ruminations have been a popular one in this series.
Totally.
But this is the first time the General Grievous mention has come across in terms of the soundtrack here, which I think is a underrated hit, which also comes after, I believe, Padme's Ruminations in the soundtrack. Or is it
In the soundtrack
Anakin's Dark
itself?
Deeds? I may be wrong. I might, because I listen to Anakin's Dark Deeds a lot, and I think it comes in after that, actually, now that I'm talking out loud. But
I think the soundtrack is out of order. I think Brad and I talked about this. Is that right, Brad? The soundtrack?
Yeah,
it certainly is.
Okay, because it goes General Grievous,
With
then
Battle of the Heroes
Palpatine.
being like second or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's third. It is out of order. Of course, it's out of order. I'm literally looking at Wikipedia right now just to make sure I'm looking at it right. But no, Battle of the Heroes is third. General Grievous is fifth, and then it goes Palpatine's teachings, and then another heavy hitter, Grievous and the Droids, and then Padme's Ruminations.
Another good one.
Yeah.
And then there's Ruminations again. Yeah.
Then there's General Grievous
sorry.
speaks to Lord Sidious. Another good one.
Another good one. With like that vocal choir too. Oh, yeah, so good.
Crazy town.
Brad, you maybe Padme's Ruminations is on your list too here, but what are you thinking here before we dive into some more of this?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the basic answer just because I'm a basic guy here. But Battle of the Heroes. I mean that was what I was always listening to on my CD player. Yes, I had the CD player and I was popping Revenge of the Sith into it.
As you should.
That and Magical Mystery Tour from the Beatles. Those like the two big CDs I had in the day. I also really like Anakin versus Obi-Wan, which is like more of the intro music of that fight. Because it's just very like it's like just very like fast and intense and fun and
but I think some Duel of the Fates thrown in there too.
Yeah, it's not in the track, but like the movie version of it. Yeah, like if I had the ideal complete recordings of which I know they did that for the original trilogy. They have like the complete expanded, which is like all 2.5 hours of music from the film, which they don't have for the prequels, unfortunately. I would love that. And I don't know if they would ever do that. Probably not. It's a relic of the time, unfortunately, with music. But Rogue One did that recently too. Actually, they released the
full.
They re-released
and Solo
the full,
got it.
Yeah, Solo got it too. So actually, I take that back. Maybe there's a chance someday that the prequels will get
streaming.
That same treatment.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah. I would love to see that, and maybe we could revisit that answer if we do get to that point to say like, what's your favorite piece of music off the score? Well, which score? I would love that day. I would love it. Give me the complete recordings of Rots, please.
Please, yes. If there's anything, Lucasfilm, I beg of you, please, release the full Revenge of for the whole prequel trilogy. Just why stop at Revenge of the Sith? Just one May the 4th. Just release it to the world. Make a big vinyl release and give it to everybody. So it's in physical form. It's in streaming. Everyone, best of both worlds. Everybody wins.
Absolutely.
I agree.
But Battle of the Heroes is the standout. MTV was a thing with music videos back in the day, folks. Battle of the Heroes had a very popular music video on Total Request Live at that time. Yeah, it did.
Wow.
It got regular airplay for at least a couple weeks once the film came out. It was just imagined in between like Gwen Stefani, Hollaback Girl, and what other popular hits were in 2005? Fergalicious, was that time? I couldn't remember. Something other than 2005 was out, folks. Beverly Hills Weezer. Yep, that was a thing. And in between there, you might get Battle of the Heroes, which was a fun time.
That's so legendary, actually.
It really is. Yeah, especially Phantom Menace. That was when it was its heyday, really, and Duel of Fates had many popular weeks on MTV in 1999 with that too. So definitely a relic of the past, if you will. I get back to the Padme's Ruminations of it all. I think that track is just it's a standout, not just for Star Wars, but like for John Williams' career too. It just doesn't seem to like it's such a mature piece for him, and a film and a part of the movie with no dialogue either, where the music does all the talking for it. I think is so cool. I remember playing, I think it was Battlefront 2, like a year or two once the film came out, and then just like when it had the loading screen, it would just start playing random tunes. And one time it played Padme's Ruminations. I'm like, this is in Star Wars? I don't I need to rewatch this to check it out. Then I saw where it played in the context of things. I'm like, wow, Anakin and Padme are oceans apart here. He's about to make this choice, and she's, oh man, so impactful. I think it's wonderfully done. And the other, I will yes and to everybody, I think Anakin's dark deeds, but specifically the part where it's him on Mustafar, where he's got the tear going down his cheek and he's looking up into the sun. I'm like, oh man, this is a guy that's reflecting on what he's done, and he's fighting internally to say, like, I'm doing this for a right thing here, even though I know it's kind of wrong. I've done some bad things, guys, but I must do it. This is the only way out. He's convinced himself here, and he's having that internal conflict within him. And I think the score just sings that whole thing across the board there without even having Anakin say anything. So it's a great performance by Hayden, great design of Mustafar in that moment, and the score says it all right there for us. So wonderful stuff there.
Hayden knows how to work those eyebrows, that's for sure.
Hayden absolutely does. Yes, no doubt about that. Hayden, big Hayden fan here. Let's get to our last question here, folks. We're almost at the full runtime of Revenge of the Sith itself, so let's see if we can make it
sorry.
2 hours and 20 minutes. This is awesome. No, this is fantastic. What are your favorite moments in this movie? So feel free to share any and everything, perhaps something that we haven't talked about yet. Anything else that you want to say about Revenge of the Sith, this is the time to air it out. So, Brad, let's give you the floor here. Favorite moments in this movie? What makes you coming back to this thing 20 years later?
Oh my. Of course, I always come back for the Yoda scraping his nails on the
No, you don't.
It's actually my ringtone. Every time somebody sends me a text, it plays.
Don't even joke, bro. Don't even joke. How dare you?
Oh man, that is good. That's gold.
No, I think that battle is really fun. Like Yoda, obviously we saw Flippy Yoda in Attack of the Clones, and I mentioned earlier the laughs in the theater and like what I was worried about people laughing about, but the one thing that did get the most laughs was Yoda walking in and throwing the two red guards into the wall, and then they just topple over. That got a lot of laughs in my theater. The new release.
At an end, your role is
yeah. And people just thought that was and it's so comedically timed. So I love their banter. I love that, it's kind of that facade falls. It's like the Daedra and Luthen moment for Yoda and Palpatine of just like, we don't have to play games anymore. Like we both know what's about to go down. Like, why leave?
My little green friend.
Yeah, you want to play these games? You want to play these games, Palpatine? I'll play these games with you. I'm gonna whip out my lightsaber and F you up, So, and then throwing Senate pods around, obviously, like the symbolism of that, like literally destroying the remnants of democracy, and that we know they rebuild those pods like with the Imperial logo on the front. So, a lot of symbolism there as well.
And having no care in the world too. Like he doesn't care. He's throwing these probably very expensive pods at this Jedi Master here, and I think that's a really well done sequence too. Again, with the wonderful score in the background too, between the Battle of the Heroes and Duel of the Fates that goes on. What a fantastic like climactic moment of this movie. Like it's all building up to this big thing, and it pays off. Right? Could you imagine if like 20 years ago that like neither of those action sequences had lived up to the moment? Like we wouldn't be celebrating this film in the length that we are tonight if it wasn't so awesome. We'd be like, man, good movie up to the end, and then it kind of fell flat. That would have been the thing in hindsight that what we have wished was differently. It would have been they need to hit the landing a bit better here. But the metaphorical nature of, like you were saying, of that battle between Yoda and Palpatine is really impactful. I always find it funny that like I don't know why, but I think it's like my brain, like, when you watch something so many times, so like when you read a sentence, you start like overanalyzing words, and you're like, oh, what does the mean? I don't understand. It's like, why Yoda like gives up so easily and he never goes back to it? I'm like, okay, well, he only had a limited amount of time before the clones start showing up. So I'm like, okay, we're good. Don't spoil it for yourself, Anthony. You like this movie. Don't overthink it. But yeah, I do like that sequence a lot here, and that's a great way to close out some fun. And that awesome entrance too. Yeah, Yoda showing up there. It's almost like reminiscent of his Attack of the Clones 1 too, but just less triumphant. And the great banter, like you said, that's so good.
Yes.
Sarah, you teased Utapau and some Kashyyyk here. What other awesome moments and favorite moments do you have in this movie?
I'm really here to talk about my favorite tertiary characters. I have some favorite
Lay it
characters in
on me.
all of Star Wars that just come from this movie. First of all, I am a huge fan of Captain Tarful. Okay, I have
All
no
right. All
idea
right.
why. I have always loved Tarful. What a little legend. We only see him in like 2 scenes, but I love Kashyyyk. I love the Wookiees,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so the whole kind of battle sequence is so cool and really engaging, and that like Yoda's there, and I also loved Yoda as a child. So
Yeah.
that was always so exciting for me, and always continues to be an exciting sequence for me. Um, Also, like jumping to Utapau, my other favorite tertiary character is Tion Medin.
Tian
Um,
Madan. Yep.
and for the listeners at home, I actually have like an original art card, Topps art card of him
Love it.
because that I like I commission this particular artist at C2E2 every year, and he's like, "Oh, I've got these like sketch cards,"
Ah,
and he's like, "I've got these like tertiary cards." I was like, "That is my favorite. I need him." Um, so now I have him, and he
love it.
stares at me while I work, and he's a little bit scary, but we love him. But I love the design of that character, and I love the whole Utapau sequence. I am also a huge fan of Boga, and
Mm-hmm.
General
Mm-hmm.
Grievous, and I think what really makes that part of the movie for me is the sound, whether it be the sound
Mm.
of General Grievous's speeder, incredible, brilliant, or Boga's like screeches, the
The
noises that
Boga.
she makes. Like, yes, I like these bring me such joy, and are so Star Warsy to me. Um, yeah, I really just have an undying, completely unexplainable love for these parts of this movie. I think they're the things that I just, I watched this movie as enough as a kid, and for some reason, these were the things I globbed onto, and it stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, also how Bail Organa is my space dad. I don't know. I think I watched, like, a Capital 4th, and he was the host a number of years in a row, Jimmy Smits, and so I was like, "I love
Yep.
this
Yep.
man." So, it's like that energy that's brought to it, but I also love the design of Grievous. So whenever we get to be with him and in a scene, and he has just, like, really interesting mix between organic and inorganic
Mm-hmm.
in his design, the way that he moves, and ultimately his downfall, the blaster sound from Obi-Wan's blaster that shoots his organic parts and then he lights on fire is crazy. Absolutely bonkers crazy.
Yeah.
I I love these things so very much. But I think there's something really incredible in Grievous's design. Like, how we talk about like how Davy Jones from Pirates holds up today, and that's a movie that came
Yeah.
around the same time. I think Grievous is exactly the same way in terms of a CG character that entirely holds up. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
thing that really makes him is um his eyes, and the way his eyes are
Yeah.
sunken in on the kind of inorganic part of his body, but just the kind of texture there. I don't know. I know that's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
particular part of a movie necessarily, but I just really love the whole sounds of the Utapau sequence, and Kashyyyk and the greenery and the Wookiees and these little middle inner parts of the movie. They're certainly not the most important sequences in the movie, and they perhaps aren't even the most exciting sequences in the movie, considering we have this Anakin Obi-Wan battle that is so incredibly iconic. But I absolutely adore and am letting the scene play on the other screen while I talk about it. This part of the
As
movie,
you should.
it is just too good. Thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, those are awesome sequences too. I'll yes and what you just said there. I think they're
Yeah.
great. I think it's interesting that yeah, it's like those are the cutaway scenes in the midst of like the important Anakin seduction moments there. So it's
Right.
like not from a Jedi, and then it cuts over to Kashyyyk and the defense there that they're building up and all that, and then the Order 66 stuff, and then it's like these Wookiees are dead. Move on. And of course, all the Utapau stuff is just I think awesome. Tiamadan, 10th level upstairs.
He's here. We're being
Thousands of
held
battle droids.
hostage. Yeah, I don't know. He's barely there, but like the design of his character is like so stark and
Terrifying. I mean, I was
it's
terrified as a kid, so I don't
scary.
know. Like,
like the texture, I don't know, of his costume, of like his head, like I don't know, I'm obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed with
See,
it.
for me, it was the teeth. The teeth really
Oh,
got me going. I was like,
yes.
oh, I don't want those chompers.
Those
I
are
don't want those
crazy.
chompers.
Yeah.
It's like,
Absolutely.
oh no, oh
Like
no.
absolutely incredible bringing together of different elements of design, like costume and makeup and in that environment. Just delicious.
Mhm. I agree. Chef's kiss on top of that one for sure. For me, I'll just say it's it's a film that's very dark. It's the darkest, arguably, of the main saga films. I think Rogue One has a vote in that one. If you want to talk about darker films as well, but in a film that has like we said, the main character killing younglings, almost the entirety of the Jedi Order is wiped out. Padme dies in a very obscure way, but arguably from being choked out from her husband on a planet. Your main character is burnt alive to a crisp, and boy, does that camera linger on Anakin for a
It
second there
does.
to let you know that guy's getting burned alive there. And again, like you said, Brad, against his will, put into this life-saving suit that's mechanized, and it's not an enjoyable experience. It looks like to be in that. I like to highlight some of the fun, whimsical moments, I think, of this movie. I laugh every time at the another happy landing. I laugh at the Buzz Droids moment. I think some of that early Anakin Obi-Wan stuff is really good. I like the R2. Oh, he's trying. He's doing his best. Kind of moments there. I do enjoy like the particularly my favorite moment that I laugh out loud every time at is when they get caught in like the ray shield, and they're like, we're smarter than this. Apparently not.
So good.
Well, everybody has their time, right? I think those are really good moments. The thing that me and my buddies back in the day, I'll end on this one, always laughed about unintentionally. This is the one that's unintentional, but we're like, why is this in there? And in a scene that's very important, arguably the most important scene of the Skywalker saga from a certain point of view, is the birth of the twins. And while that's going on, you have this droid going, ooh-pa, ooh-pa. I'm like, what is that noise? What is that sound? What is this droid doing here? We have so many more questions, George, and you're just leaving us hanging here. We don't even know this droid's name. What's the deal here? It's Polis Massa. That's just a random space outpost here. We have questions and we need answers. And it's been 20 years later. I still don't have answers. I don't know.
Hey, from a certain point of view, we're gonna get that whole droid's backstory.
There you go.
This is the story I was born to write. Is the story of droid on Polis Massa that says oopa oopa when the birth of the twins are being
droid.
born.
Let's get it.
Yes.
Like we said earlier, how this would be titled Anakin, a Star Wars story. Let's just get Birthwife Droid, a Star Wars story on Disney Plus.
Coming to Disney Plus next fall.
Beautiful.
Birth droid. What the birth was just the beginning.
Yeah. $750 million budget.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. Get Tony Gilroy involved. Very dark, darker than Andor. You thought Andor took us to new places. There, you haven't seen it yet.
Just
wait until the social commentary on the maternal healthcare system of the country.
I was gonna steer that away and say, just wait until you hear this particular droid's dark backstory, but you really had to bring it into maternal mortality.
Hey, if it's Tony Gilroy doing it, he's gonna do some commentary.
That's right.
I mean,
there's a good chance.
Maternal mortality is a very serious issue, so
yeah.
It could be really gritty. It could be really important.
Or it could just be a comedy. And on a lighter note, it could all just be it could be a couch comedy kind of fun vibe. What's the Uba droid doing today?
It would be like, which Emmy do we want to win, drama or comedy?
It would be really funny if if we're doing the comedy, like the Uba droid, it's like the Office style where they're breaking the fourth wall and looking at the cameras, like, and can you believe that they came into my clinic for, a bloody nose? Like, get it together, put some tissues up there and wait. Like, you're wasting everybody's time.
Polis Massa can't. It's either a thriving or it's not thriving as a business outpost here. So this might, they might only have like 1 or 2 patients a year. We got a lot to mine from them here. There's a lot to know.
Totally.
And folks, with that, we have mined just about everything we possibly can from Revenge of the Sith in this wonderful celebration that we've had here. And I want to thank our friends of the Force, our friends of this podcast here for joining us here Brad, where can the folks find you online if they want to continue the conversation, or just to find Friends of the Force if you want to plug that right now?
Yeah. So you can find Friends of the Force. We're mostly on Blue Sky, Instagram. I do post some episodes on Twitter. I try to not be over there as much as possible, but
Fair enough.
there's still some people on there. So, and then we post our episodes on YouTube and any major podcast platform of your choosing. Myself, I'm on Blue Sky pretty much exclusively at this point. And I also have a Letterboxd and a Goodreads account. So if you want to see like what I'm watching or what I'm reading, that's the place. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I personally use social media a whole lot less these days than I did, just a few years ago.
Yeah.
But you can find me at K's Wrath on Blue Sky. I'm not very active there, but that is an account that is public. Otherwise, you can find me at all our conversations on Friends of the Force or my personal Twitter at SEH221, where I still occasionally tweet.
Wonderful, folks. Yeah, give them a follow. Follow, of course, their podcast, Friends of the Force. I just, before we hopped on here, I was at the gym and I listened to the wonderful interview you did with Amy Ratcliffe that just came out. So that was an awesome episode. Thanks for doing that. I thought there was some great conversation points in there, and a wonderful book, too, that she thankfully gets to update, and hopefully gets to update many more times in the near future here, too. And of course, your Andor discussions were fantastic, too. So go back and check those out, folks, too, for some more in-depth analysis on Andor, which I think we could all use. We could all use more Andor in our lives all the time, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should have some fun interviews up too by this time the episode this comes out, or by the time this episode comes out. So with none other than Tony Gilroy himself. So you should go check that out. It's a big one.
Speaking of Andor himself, the big man.
Yeah. And Alan Tudyk, as well as Margit Pfeiffer, who is a sound editor on the series. So we did a roundtable with some other podcasters. So
wow,
go check those out.
Fantastic.
If you're an Andor fan.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that you had this conversation after that, which if you had in advance, you could have asked about the impending UPA droid project that is on Tony Gilroy.
Tony Gilroy, the UPA droid.
Missed opportunities, but maybe there will be just maybe we call Tony up. Hey Tony, you got time for another interview?
He could have slipped the UPA droid in the hospital with Clea.
He could have.
He could have. Oh, Lena So Hospital could have. I think that's the origin. That's not the origin. But that's where the character went after Polis Massa, a secret member of the Rebel Alliance. There. See,
I love this. I love what you're.
There's more to this story than
here.
what we're. Exactly. There's so much more, folks, here. And thank you to everybody. Yeah. Exactly. It's like an onion. It has layers. Folks, thank you so much for listening to these Revenge of the Sith conversations here. Of course, we'll be back next week with a brand new episode in your feed. And until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.